Perfect. Okay, so open the meeting for Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. I will, as usual, read the agenda. We're still waiting for a couple of members. They may be delayed by the travel conditions, but we do have a quorum here, so we'll get started. At 7, we have community input. Then we have appointments, fire station conceptual design discussion, ARPA funding decisions. At 8, police renovation project, police and fire chief evaluation process discussion, amendment to the collective bargaining agreement with the Carlisle Police Unit Local 201, municipal flag policy discussion, Rotary sign policy discussion, town administrator report, review minutes and warrants, liaison reports, and community input. And hopefully we'll adjourn in better weather than we came in. Is there anybody online? There's nobody in the room. Anybody online who would like to offer community input tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to the appointments. Get my.
David's online too now.
Hi, David. So, let me see.
Want to take us through them, Ryan?
Hang on. Am I not getting? Oh, there she is. Okay.
You know, they've got the road closed coming down here from the Rotary.
Really?
Oh, really?
Yeah, just coming down, because he said it was
Can't
too
make it up there.
slippery.
Can't make it up. the hill.
Right, and so I broke under and said, hey, can I get to town hall select board meeting? He goes, yeah. of course."
Special dispensation.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So, so we have community appointments. We need a motion for the Housing Trust. And then we'll have to discuss ESC.
I move to appoint John Valentine, 268 Fifth Street as resident representative to the Carlisle Affordable Housing Trust, term to end June 30th, 2025.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? John will be a very good addition to this group. All those in favor, we need to do a roll call because David is online.
Arnold, I.
Brown eye.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Snell eye.
Great, thank you. Now, for the appointment of, for the ESC, there are 2 candidates, and one of whom was voted on and recommended to us by the ESC for an associate member. But it is, you know, at the end of the day, we're the ones that make the final decision. So I don't know if anybody wanted to add their tiddly-pumps to this, or if we just want to go with what's recommended.
It sounds like the ESC considered both of them and thought they were good candidates, but
Yes.
that they were recommending the one because he brought, what was the skill? I don't have it right in front of me, but
Yeah.
there was a particular thing he was bringing. So I'd support their recommendation.
So do you want to make that recommendation, motion?
I move that,
Oh,
I
sorry,
move that the select board appoint
Richard Hisson.
Richard Hissey of 439 Stern Street as an associate member of the Environmental Sustainability Committee with a term to end June 30th, 2024.
There's a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to say that I'm really glad to see that we have more than one applicant for this slot. And I hope that Mr. Drinkwater will consider some other slots that are open. We are getting more volunteers than we have in the past. but we still need a whole bunch of them, and there's some other committees that are gone begging, so. All those, we have to do the, sorry, roll call.
Arnold, I.
Brown eye.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Snell, I.
Great, thank you. Then we have, Thomas McConnell. Brian, you have anything that you'd like to say about Thomas?
Yeah, so the board will recognize Tom's name. Tom served with the DPW for 8 years, and you recently appointed him as a driver for the Council on Aging and Human Services. He is willing to fill in for us while we fill some vacancies. He is a longtime attendee of the transfer station and has agreed to fill that role on a Saturday. That does alleviate some pressure on our full-time staff. So it would be a good temporary hire. And then he has plowing experience, and we have limited seasonal plowing help, so he can fill that role and help us plow. Good day to make sure we have someone to do that.
Great. Is there a motion?
Someone in.
I move that the select board appoint Thomas McConnell as a temporary Department of Public Works general laborer driver.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Brown eye.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Snell, I.
And I do see here that Don Drinkerwater has also applied to be a member of the Town Meeting Study Committee, so that is good news. Thank you, Don. Great. Okay,
Madam Chair, can I
Yes.
recommend that we do a TA report, something and just wait until
yeah,
7:15, because there may be people who want to be here for the fire department.
yeah, that's a good idea. Let me just see, and is there anything else we could do? I think that's probably the only thing we can do, is the
You
TA.
could do a quick liaison report.
You
if
want to do,
want.
oh,
Well, just on the CPC, just, so the, Community Preservation Committee, opened up, a funding cycle, in December, and the deadline for, grant applications to be submitted is a week from Friday, the 19th. And we sent out, publicity to various folks, and the Mosquito ran it. And I just want to say again publicly that it does not have to be a completely fleshed out application. If it just describes the basic project that people have in mind, if they get that to us by the 19th, and that we can hold a place for them on the warrant at the Springtown meeting. And I've heard from a couple of different committees so I'm expecting some applications to be received.
great. Thank you. We could also do the minutes and warrants. So why don't we do the minutes and warrants? I know I sent in some corrections, and they came back, and they're in the packet with the corrections.
I move that the select board approve the minutes of Tuesday, December 12th, 2023, as presented tonight.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Arnold, I.
Brown eye.
Modell, I.
Reed, aye.
Snell, I.
Great. Well,
I move that the select board approve the minutes of December 19th, 2023, as presented tonight.
great.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Yeah, I sent, hi, I sent, Gretchen two very minor typo, right? That shouldn't affect anything, just.
Were they in the ones that we got yesterday or
those
today?
Should be.
Can't hear you too well, David. Were they? Okay,
He said they were just typos.
I know, but I just want,
Yeah.
his question was, were those in,
The second version. Well, the second version.
Can you say that all over again, David?
They were in the read corrected version.
Oh, okay, all
Okay.
right.
I'm in Radio Free Carlisle. Don't blame me, blame the town
Okay,
for no connectivity.
so,
All right,
they were in the read version, so,
So it's as presented, so we're still good.
as corrected then, because you, I presume, have sent these to Gretchen or will send those typos to Gretchen?
Said they were.
did
He's saying,
Okay,
I
I,
think we're good.
all right,
did send.
all right. Excellent,
I
call vote,
sent
Arnold, I.
to Gretchen.
okay. So we have Arnold eye and Brown eye doing the roll,
Modell, aye.
Reed eye.
Snell, aye.
Lovely, this is gonna be a fun evening.
Is he
Okay,
gonna be remote all night, David? Or are you trying to make it here?
2 minutes, 5 minutes, I don't know.
Okay,
okay.
Almost there.
Yeah, well, take your time. There's a lot of slush and lots of accidents on the way, so, and the road, our, Westford Road is closed at Concord and Concord Road. So,
If you say you're coming here, they'll let you by, but
that's what I did, David. Just roll your window down and tell him that you're going to the select board meeting and he'll let you go by.
Okay, thank you.
okay. All right, I think we can now, it is 7:15, start the fire station conceptual design discussion. Take it away, Ryan.
All right, I prefaced this at your last meeting and we'll frame it for you tonight. The charge from the select board was to procure design firms in order to build a conceptual design for the fire station renovation. The design selection committee considered several proposals from very qualified firms. We had a lot of applicants and they narrowed it down to 4 firms per your design selection policy. The top 4 are then to be contacted by me in order, and then I'm to negotiate with them a proposal and fee to bring to you for a decision on who is going to build the conceptual design for the fire department. So in the initial conversation with the designer, it became apparent to me that we needed some more input from the select board in terms of goals, or I think you would be frustrated by what was brought to you. So what do I mean by that? There was little mention of total project cost, which wasn't included in the request for qualifications. And then what I felt to be a small disconnect, not a unprofessional disconnect, but a small disconnect between what the board was looking to do, which was to get some options that would fit a certain budget and a certain style versus someone meeting all of the proposed programming goals from the Public Safety Facilities Committee discussions. So numbers were thrown around. The master plan indicated a $10 million investment for the fire station department. That is a number that was thrown around a lot during the design selection committee discussion. The designer that I spoke to mentioned somewhere around $20 million for this type of project. And then, of course, many discussions I've had wanted that number to be well below the $10 million cost. So I'm bringing that to the select board tonight to have a conversation about what your expectations are for total project cost and what you would like to convey to the designer during this negotiation phase so that you get the proper designer for this particular proposal. If I feel like the board would not be met through the RFQ process that we've had now, your goals and what you want, then I would simply put the RFQ back out on the street for another round of procurement and reconvene the DSC and bring you what you needed. If I can meet your goals within the current structure, then I would just negotiate with the current designers. But I didn't want this to be my project. I didn't want it to be the DSC's project. I wanted it to be the select board's project. So I have the ability to walk you through some financial scenarios tonight, and also have asked the chief to be here, and he has a short presentation for you on programming. So we have all the ammunition for you to answer questions on what your goals might be so that I can then go back and negotiate or re-put out this RFQ for you.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or are we just launch?
Percent.
Do you want to stop? You want the chief to just go?
But do you want to do it this, use this?
I got it right here.
That is fine.
Oh, you had me over there. You know what? I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move because it's really hard for me to
Okay.
see this screen from over here. I'm gonna
Leave
get
it
a
over there,
major
yeah.
crick in my neck. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, Brian, that tells us something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I would have been the same way. Attention to detail.
Yes, either that or OCD, I don't
Sorry,
know.
Okay.
Okay,
How long do you think, just to give Brian, Chief Soros a little.
well,
guide
we
of
have a
time,
45-minute time slot
so-
here for
so
the
how long
entire
would you
thing,
like?
5 or 10 minutes on the outside.
Okay, well, I just run in from
Possible.
a medical, so I might be in hyperdrive and just hold on. Race through. Like it?
Yeah, I told you so.
Tell me where to go, chief.
So just turn it into slow view so we don't see all my, and
We go.
there you go. Okay, so go ahead. Yeah, so kind of how did we get here? When they built the current station, they knew that they would be needing, that wasn't sufficient. They again had a dollar limit when they did that. They supposedly made provisions for a second story. I know they removed all the ledge for adding bays behind because they knew they were going to need it. And now, of course, we're told the current station can't be modified because of the seismic building codes have changed. So select board committee asked us to consider a combined facility. Some of you were involved in that. It was difficult to find an acceptable solution. The other thing that was interesting is architects told us that the savings of a combined facility would be like 5 or 10%, not massive savings, which was an interesting finding. So then we started considering a fire-only building, either building new on the current site or altering the current building. The costs for temporarily housing the fire department are quite high. We're talking probably $1 to $2 million, maybe on the higher end of that. And the total costs that were obtained by looking at what the fire department's needs were, these were vetted needs, and building a building for that were higher than the town was finding acceptable. So that's where we started from. And so just a little bit, we'll go through how we're different than other departments. We don't have a hydrant system, and that's not unusual in this country. I mean, it's unusual around here. Other places do that, but the difference in those towns is that the people around them do the same thing that they do. We're unique in that we do it and the people around us don't. So we kind of have to be somewhat self-sufficient, more so than other communities that do what we do. We've developed, my predecessors developed a very good 3-engine system, show up with more water than usual in your attack engine, and our driveways can be up to 2,000 feet long. Again, that's rather unusual. And so that's 4 people to man that engine. The next engine that comes has 3,500 gallons of water, fair amount, that can hook up to that supply hose that just went up the driveway. And there's a second crew in there. And then the next engine that comes has supply hose. From there, there's Jazz, and that's what uses the rest of the engine. So off-road water supply, that's a different thing, et cetera, and you go from there. Kind of all those pieces are necessary to do what it is that we do. Next. So this works well if we have adequate staffing. And the way we handle that is through a dynamic staffing system, being on call. We're rather unusual in this area for remaining an on-call department. Our most recent fire on Russell Street, we had 15 people and we used about 20,000 gallons of water. We never lost water supply. That doesn't always happen even in towns that have hydrants. So when we can have the people and we have the equipment, we actually, it works pretty well. Mutual aid, we can call them and they can help with fire suppression, not so much with water supply. So we have, again, our our equipment and our training is catered toward that. So for us, it's 12 people like minimum to make our system work. Just as a for career departments around us with towns 3 times our size, their staffing is 11. There's no town around us that for fire would have 50 people show up like we did, right? So some of the extras that we do have that engine that sits outside. If we're at all understaffed, we kind of need that. It also, we'll talk about in a minute, really helps us with being able to get insurance in this town. Otherwise, we may have some issues with that. Yes.
So how do the bigger towns get away with 11? 11 at any shift or 11 total?
Right. They have hydrants every 500 feet.
But
Or
the
300.
11 is shifts or everybody total?
No, on shift.
On shift, so they have like 40 people.
Oh, yeah, 40, 50, absolutely. Right. Next. So kind of what's the future for us? When I get called by insurance companies, which happens quite regularly, they ask me where the water supply is within 1,000 feet of the home. And not a good answer for that, right? So my answer is, well, we can arrive with up to 10,000 gallons. I don't talk about that one of the engines is out of service for the winter and things like that, but but that gets them to listen to us, right? So then once we listen to them, I tell this is how we do things and whatever. And in general, many of the insurance companies will then insure with us. That, what we have actually helps us in that sense. Another thing is that our ISO rating right now is an 8B out of 10. That for the insurance companies that use that, which is a fair amount, that means that your insurance rates are at a certain level. If we could reduce that, which if we do what we're talking about doing, which being able to house everything and being able to train people and all this kind of thing, we should be able to improve that. And that would have some pretty significant overall, maybe on everybody's house, it may be a few $100s, but you add that up for the town and you're talking about millions of dollars a year in savings. The other kinds of things happening with us, new homes are not getting smaller, they're getting bigger. They're also lightweight construction, which is means that when they go up more quickly, so depending on where the fire is, et cetera. So it may become difficult and costly to insure homes if we reduce what it is that we do. So we don't have a lot of room to say, oh, yeah, we're gonna cut back on what we do. We can do that. It's just that things may become difficult. Go ahead. So what kind of requirements are we looking at for a fire station? There's a lot of changes for health and safety. Cancer in the fire service is going to become a big deal. It's kind of expected that you have things like red, yellow, green zones in terms of contamination. It's expected you have areas where you can decontaminate things, et cetera. Heart health is also a big issue, especially, in our situation. So in our situation, you're home, you're asleep, the tones go off, you jump out of bed, you go to the call when you're even the medicals, you get to the medicals and you realize your hands are shaking a little bit. Well, what happened is all your adrenaline just flooded your body, right? That's fine, it happens. But if you don't do cardio work within the next 12 hours, that will start eating your system up. And you do that too many times, and that's why firefighters end up with heart attacks. So some of these kinds of things are important for us to have the ability to, or the encouragement, the ability to encourage people to be both fitness for strength and also cardio. Another thing that has happened since 2019 is we are now an OSHA state for municipal government, which means if people start get hurt because of our way overcrowded station, OSHA will come in and fix it for us. And we may not like what that means. Go ahead. Okay. So in terms of our program, things that are happening, EMS, we're getting more and more calls. It's an expanded program. We may have to think about what we do about ALS. There are many options going forward, but with Concord probably going ALS, our current arrangement may not work forever. The ability to have year-round availability of tankers may become important. Getting ISO rating improvement, I think, is in our future if we go forward with what we're talking about. Things like having training rooms, having offices. There is one office in that building, and that's, for what it is we do now, that's not enough. Having a gender neutral facility. We now have a quarter of our staff is female. They need something that works for everybody. And also accessibility, especially for public use, is important. There are things like we've tried to have EMT classes in our building, and the state has to approve your space. We can't do things like that where we are. Yes.
So 2 questions, Brian. One is, you said Westford is going to ALS?
Concord.
What is ALS?
Advanced life support. So that's paramedic level.
And how does that affect us?
So right now we have a shared paramedic service that comes out of Emerson. That's a private company that does it.
Yeah.
They are a for-profit company. If they can't make a profit, then they need to find something else to do. And as more and more fire departments have gone paramedic, the business model for them is.
They have their own.
Huh?
Meaning Concord will have its own.
Concord, yes, the Concord ambulances will be ALS ambulances.
Which we won't be able to share with.
We could call them mutual aid as one of our options.
Okay, but we're not gonna be sharing the for-profit guy anymore with Concord, is what you're saying.
Concord won't be using so much, so that,
They may pull out of the area.
right.
The other question on the tanker, so is the theory that in the winter, if we had more indoor storage and the tanker was inside, it would be functional, but
Yes,
when it's outside, you can't use it in the cold?
right. For 2 reasons. One, it won't start, and the second reason is that it doesn't have any water in it. So
You can't use like antifreeze to water.
we do, well, with 3,500 gallons, it's rough. We do put antifreeze in the pump, and we keep some antifreeze in the pump, and we have to, takes about an hour and a half, 2 hours to winterize it, just like an RV, basically. But no, 3,500 gallons, not feasible.
So that little truck you can't use it. 3,500 gallon truck,
The big truck, yeah.
big truck.
It's used the rest of the year, and it's useful for quite a bit. But one of the things is, we aren't guaranteed staffing the way we work. And there are times we are low staffed. We just get very lucky that people come out of the woodwork and whatever, but that doesn't always happen. And when it didn't, having that there is very useful. It's also very useful for brush fires, which is one of our disaster scenarios in this town. So recruitment and retention is actually important as well. One of the things with a design is to have some rooms that can be used for multiple functions. So the same room that you build is a bedroom. If what we need is an office, if what we need is a space for somebody to put their kids when they go on a call, if the place needs a space for somebody to work remotely, you just need a room, and it can be used for any of these things. One of the people who does what we do successfully and is a big proponent of the way we do fire departments is somebody in West Barnstable. And his comment is, if you're doing the things the same way as you were doing them 5 years ago, you're just not going to be successful. And if you're doing the things the same way in 5 years from now as you're doing them now, you won't be successful. But you talk to anybody who's doing station design, 5 years ago, it was important to have common rooms. Everybody could watch a movie. Well, nobody watches a movie anymore. They watch it on their phone and they're in their corner. So just things change. You just need the space, and then we can figure out the best way to use it. And what we design should allow for multifunction use. That's the only point of that. So other kind of recruitment and retention things, having common kitchens, areas for remote work. I do have people come that would stay here and work if there was a reasonable space for them to do it. It's quiet and whatever. Fitness rooms, areas that can be used for training, sleeping quarters. So right now, our pool of potential members. We extended some, but the people who stick around are the people who can be active, are the people who live within 4 or 5 minutes of the station. And if we can extend that by saying, oh, summer weekends, we have a really hard time staffing, which we do, come stay in the station for the weekend. We can start doing things like that. Those people become involved and then they stick with us. And it's one way we can start keeping some of these younger people we're bringing and training, but lose because we can't keep them in the area. Yes,
How would we compensate them for that?
we wouldn't. Compensation. So if we require them to sit in the station, we would need to do that. If we just say you need to be within 4 minutes, and by the way, there's a room here available for you. We're not requiring them to do that. They could be, be in a tent, wherever, however it works.
Mhm.
So the idea would be not to compensate them for that time.
Okay, so it's kind of like, and you need a car to get here. We're not responsible for that.
And you have to be careful with that, but that would be the idea. We'd have to word it in a reasonable way. So part of, the station needs some amenities so that these people feel like they're part of a community. And they may not be part of the Carlisle community in that they live here, but they're part of the fire department community because, so just because they could go to the library and do work, for somebody who lives in Cambridge and whatever, that's not, having a department that feels like a place they can be would make a big difference. Next.
If you can't have those amenities right there at the station, but I'm trying to, think about other unused properties that we have, buildings that could maybe be refurbished. Not that that doesn't cost money, but would that be a possibility that we could have satellites or whatever?
So that is more useful for the people who live in Carlisle, have been in our department for many years and moved away. They're part of the community. They just need a place. And I've opened up the mosquito for people. I've done some of that, but people who are younger and not part of the community, that's a harder thing. It's a thing. It'd be better than not having it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to design a building that can be used, if you're going to design a building that has offices, has all these kinds of things, then these things become possible within your building as well. And a career department would have many of the same needs. So, this isn't any different. So we changed screens. Okay, good. So, we're a department that has done a lot with less. We've known for a long time that the station needs to be improved. Waiting probably will not make it any cheaper. Losing an on-call department is not going to be cheap for the town either. And career departments have many of the same needs. So the goals is to keep our current building with minimal changes to the current building, stay in the current building while the addition is built. That saves you about $2 million. Ground floor of the annex and current station, if you add them together, is all of our red zone requirements. And then a second floor of the annex contains the yellow and green zones. Things like energy efficiency, et cetera, are also obviously goals.
Wait, I'm sorry. Do you mind going back to that?
Yep.
You're saying that if there were an annex, the ground floor of the annex plus the current station space.
It is
And
all
second
of
floor.
your contaminated area red zone needs should be taken care of by that. Yes.
But you don't know what the ground floor of the annex, I mean, do you have an idea about the square footage?
That's the next
of that, the
page.
Size or, oh.
It's
okay.
it's
Sorry.
substantial.
I was just
It's
trying to
substantial.
understand. Okay.
So that on the top here is our current, this is the ground floor. The current station is on the top part, and then the annex is on the bottom.
Uh-huh.
This is just me throwing something together to say, what can we do to meet our program and not change our current station? So
It's just so I can visualize it. It's directly behind the current station and
Yes.
connected to it and extends out to the right as you're looking at the front of the station.
correct.
It's not, though, connected
look
to
at-
it.
So,
Looking
well,
at the front of the
there's-
station.
it's important to note that the chief was asked to draw what could work, and one of the goals of the select board was to give this to a actual designer and to make it into something real. So it would be very tempting to assume that this could be the station, but it's not. This is just a
These aren't design documents
No.
created by Brian.
This is a video, yes.
So
It's in a video.
getting married to this design would be
No,
a
but
waste
I
of time.
just wanted to visualize what was being.
it's a
Concept.
concept and it's a demonstration. It's a
Right.
demonstration design.
Of something that might work. So ambulances, you have medical area, you have some more of the fire, but you add all that bottom part together, that's your red zone. And then on the right is a second floor. So the current station, most of it does not have a second floor there. And then on the bottom is the second floor, and you have the yellow zone, which is, if I'm not mistaken, the big area is the training room. To the right is the kitchen, day room. And on the left, you have a fitness, is a green zone with fitness area, bedrooms, your showers, all those kinds of things.
Would you envision it being taller because you have 2 stories there and you have fire trucks within it?
Yes,
So it'd be taller, just
taller than the current
taller than
station.
the current one,
Yep. And we would build on top of the current station if we were allowed, but you can't. So
right?
So this idea is to do it there. One of the ideas there then is to take your current station and put solar panels on it, but also on this one, like with this, the kinds of things one could do is put a sloping roof on this that slopes toward the front, which would make it look a little bit more reasonable, but also that could be covered with solar panels. By the time you're done, you might be paying the electricity for both of these buildings. Who knows?
So Brian, I'm seeing 13 vehicles. How many do we have now?
That's about right.
And on that,
We have 6
note,
engines,
is-
2
is-
ambulances.
I realize it's conceptual, but was the gating feature, if you had to pick a gating feature, getting all the vehicles under roof? Or was the upstairs, like for the blue are the ambulances, right?
Right.
I can see where you might want those inside. I don't know about
Well, state law is one of the reasons, but
what do you do now? You do have them inside?
we do.
You have more fire trucks?
I've removed part of the bumper of one of them to fit it in, but yes.
So I guess, let me rephrase the question. If we, inevitably, you gotta start looking at trade-offs. The gating item, the thing that, maybe sets the size criteria, is it expanding the red zone to accommodate all those vehicles, or is it some function of upstairs?
So this is not what an architect would say. This is already reduced from what an architect would say
Yeah.
is needed.
Yeah.
So, no, this is, you're starting to say, what's the minimum? Now I'm going to cut back from the minimum.
I don't
So
know.
we know.
Well, I didn't, ignore the cutback.
Yeah.
What's driving the size? It looks like fitting all the vehicles in, but I don't know that. I'm just.
I don't believe by the time you're done that it will. For example, I think an architect's going to look at that and say you need to have 2 means of egress from your second floor. The minute you do that, you're going to lose some of the spaces, et cetera. I think by the time you're done with that floor footprint, you're going to be at your minimum. You're
Right,
going to
but
lose.
something, I mean, maybe I'm not expressing
Like
myself.
we were.
I think so the yellow and the green is the area we really don't have in our current station.
Yeah.
And it's needed. It's needed.
That's right. I think just to reword what I think David's saying is, okay, so there's where all the trucks are, and that's, the existing fire station. And then there's the downstairs of the new annex,
Right.
which would be driven by what's needed on the second floor for the offices and lockers and everything. Is that at a minimum, or is it the trucks that's making the second floor bigger and therefore there's too much space there? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, sort of. Yes.
Yeah.
I think, you could take one or a bedroom and an office away possibly, but I think an architect may also say, so. Yeah.
I mean,
That is a big classroom. That is a nice size classroom. Could you make it a smaller classroom? Probably. Does the town need would it be good for the town to have some space that size? Probably. there are some things that could be reduced a little bit on.
If it was reduced, regardless of what you trade to reduce it, you then inevitably can't fit all the vehicles in. Is that violating a different rule? You may be constrained if your
Right.
goal, you put goals before, if a goal, and maybe not to be negotiated goal, just a goal or a spec, not a goal, like a criteria is all vehicles must be inside,
Right.
then you've kind of set, the downstairs is what sets the size. And however the architect architects the upstairs, that's what you got.
There's a little bit of that, yes. So the idea of not doubling up vehicles and bays,
Yeah,
having safety, and the idea of having your command vehicles inside. Right now, what we do is we clean out these tents and our command vehicles end up in the tents or completely squished in during storms, that really they should just be indoors. So the idea of having to come here and, scrape off a truck before you go on a call is, so the command vehicles could freeze. That's not a bad, that's why they sit outside. They're not going to be ruined by freezing. But having them out of the weather, there's some very strong reasons why that's a good thing. So
A
that's-
command vehicle,
those- yeah.
sorry, I mean, interrupt you.
So we have a pickup truck and a car. The car is used for medicals.
Okay, so they're not engines of some kind,
Right.
right? They're a car,
Right,
okay.
so that pickup truck is the top right one, and then the command, these cars down here are command.
Is the
vehicles.
solid red, those two vehicles that are solid red?
Close. It's the one up there, and then they're the actual physical cars you see on the bottom. They're kind of gray.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. Those
What
two.
are the trucks that are blocked in?
So the top one is the tanker that sits outside. So
Top left, you mean, or, I mean,
so it's the one,
We looking at the existing building, top left, or the new the annex?
this truck can't leave unless this one leaves.
uh-huh,
So that's the brush truck.
Okay.
The tanker that we usually use for brush fires, but we would have to do some changing to get it out. Is what it is. These are the antiques. And they can be moved forward, backwards, and whatever, but that's engine one,
you don't really, they don't have to be inside.
where you put them.
I don't know, but I'm just, and then you got layout tables and you got some other rooms and things like that pump room, you don't have that today? You don't have a pump room, right?
Sprinkler pumps, no, we don't have a sprinkler pump now. And again, I threw in an elevator and a set of stairs. We probably would need a second set of stairs somewhere.
yeah, what's this, you have two hall-like things around the ambulances, yeah, what's that?
So this right here is where all your turnout gear goes, a room with turnout gear, which
Awesome.
is supposed to be in a separate room these days.
Okay,
This is just an entranceway to get you in here to go upstairs. Because this would be kind of the entrance to the building now, because that is not the entrance to the building anymore.
okay,
And again, that's the kind of thing. an
that's
architect-
something the architect
that's
would
the
take
kind
care
thing
of,
an
that's,
architect
that's
Looks at.
clearly not architecturally sound to have
Exactly.
all that hallway.
So what are the blue trucks?
Those are the ambulances.
Those ambulances.
You just said that.
And
Okay.
the tables are like where you throw your gear and stuff, or those, whatever those white rectangles are
I'm trying to see what they are.
between the,
I know that these are UTV and trailer, and these are,
oh, so they're vehicles, they're sort of vehicles.
Yeah. and these are, we're doubling up here because we're out of
Yeah.
space.
Right.
I don't remember what those vehicles are.
So you're putting a trailer inside in this design? There's a trailer inside, an enclosed trailer inside?
Yeah, our hazmat trailer, our hazmat trailer.
Well, certainly this is something to jump off from. Brian is not an architect.
I just clicked through.
Yeah, proof of concept, that's what it's.
Right, so the idea, I mean, and a part of it, like you say, is that we need all that stuff upstairs and we can need things downstairs. So
And the Brian is not an architect, Visio is not sufficient. What is the rough square footage of?
I knew that at the time I drew it, and that was 9
You
months
can
ago.
ballpark the cost based on that.
Right.
Correct. So we have a rough estimate from a modular construction in Chelmsford of 500 per square foot
Yeah.
up to 1,000 per square foot for
What's 1,000, sorry?
is what most architects say a fire department square foot per cost is.
The
Awesome.
1,000 figure.
Well,
How did
500.
Chelmsford get away with 500?
Using a modular system attached to an existing brick building, which I think is an interesting
Yeah.
investigation for us, but not something that Brian and I are qualified to.
What's,
Wait, that's the $500 per square foot, the modular building?
I know, but just for a ROM of what his sketch is, since he's got it, I mean, you could, if you go back to your sketch, how much is the current guy? You can just kind of guess it from that.
Yeah, I had that all figured out at the time I did this, which was, a year ago.
Usually
Obviously.
it looks like it's about twice, right?
Yeah, right.
That's-
'Cause it's two
yeah,
floors.
Yeah.
Right.
right. Is there,
What's the current square footage?
Like I say, I knew this all very clearly back when we were discussing it.
okay,
But won't this, what do you need Ryan to charge you gotta give the RFP to architects, right? They're gonna want to
So
know.
they've already seen it, and our design selection committee has selected qualified architects in order,
Right.
and we're ready to negotiate with them.
For
My
them. to do that,
biggest
they can-
fear here is that they bring you a design that you would never have supported. So I'm having the chief come in and explain some programming. We were very hesitant to show you a picture because then that becomes the anchor. But that is an example of the investigation we're looking for. But it really comes down to cost. So very worried about sticker shock and sinking the project because you were expecting a $3 million building and it's now a $30 million building.
Right. But I guess, so I get back to the specs. I understand that. And I mean, if I'm the architect, I'm gonna say, what are your minimum criteria, right? Like, what's my minimum that I have to design to? Cause that's what I gotta cost out. Is that, and Julie would typically like take this, I guess, and.
So
make
we
a
gave
spec document out of it.
the scope that you have in front of you in paper form and in the packet was what was given to the architects.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
they paid attention to it when they wanted to, and then in other senses, they were pretty adamant that they know how to build a fire station and what the town needs.
Mhm.
So I want to be clear to anyone we hire that the town gets to decide what they want. And if the costs exceed what you expected, then that's fine. That we're not going to build a building that the architect wants to build. We're going to build a building that fits the goals of the town.
If you give the architect a $30 million spec and say it should not cost more than 15 million, he's gonna. Can't do it, right? I mean, there's gotta be some
well, he
meaning of
He
that.
says that, and then he says, but you could do this, or or this is what you would have to cut. And at this point, we're kind of, floating here.
Right.
With maybe not enough, because we don't know enough, but. And I understand the idea of, you don't want to have the drawing as an anchor. On the other hand, it seems to me that drawing does.
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Serve as a clear indication of what some minimum that we need, now we could say, sorry, we love your antique things, but that's a lot of square footage. And so that would be the first thing on the chopping block if if it turns out that it's, I think we have to kind of make some of these,
Right, but the we is us or?
Well,
is it
in terms of,
we or what?
I guess what well, I don't,
Can
yeah,
I
go
chime
ahead,
in?
chime in.
I think,
Thinking myself-
yeah, I think, no, we should look at this because as the select board, we are really focused on, you, David, in particular, have said, what's our capacity? And looking at our budget going forward,
Yeah.
how much can we reasonably spend? And we've looked at the police station and we've really honed in on that and we know what that's going to be. The fire station, we haven't really come up with a budgeted number. And I think it would be helpful, and I think Ryan is expressing this, that we really kind of hone in on a number that we think fits within our kind of planning of looking out the next 5 years or 10 years of what's going to make sense. Then in addition to that, work in the requirements that in scope that the chief has. And listening tonight, I thought it kind of boiled down to three things. One was, health safety, which is the decontamination and those type of things, which need to be done just as part of the current codes and part of fire department. Second was the gender, now you have a women on the force. You didn't have that when the original building was built. So I think that's a justifiable reason to really, expand with what we have. And then the third one is the programmatic needs is how do you attract people if you want to have this volunteer fire department in the future? What is necessary to do that? I think that's the one that it has kind of the most play in that because, we as the select board, but weighing in just as kind of thinking about what is important, if we want to have that and the chief says we have to have, these particular things to attract people, I think we have to get comfortable that all of those things are necessary. And as Kate pointed out, well, can you get them somewhere else? Is there other kind of housing, something like that? But and the chief responded to that.
Yeah, but I would say on top of those, maybe not the first one, but maybe second, is the trucks that need to be inside need to be inside. I mean,
Yes,
not
that-
have your
another
big
one. Okay,
tanker
so
available in the winter.
Four,
That's like step one to me.
yes, that's how, yeah.
Right, so I think I'm back to, I mean, I'm kind of simplistic in it, but like, I guess what we're saying, Brian, is however the process works, the designer's gonna have this discussion with you. Absolute clarity about like, what do you have to have? What do you have to have to be functional? We can't have winter fires presenting more risk than summer fires because we just can't have that, right? So to me, like, that's like a really strong thing that's got to be in there. And then, maybe it descends a little from there. Is there one of the things that the police planning, at least the chief and others made clear is credit, I don't know if I'm going to say it right,
Yes.
accreditation.
That rating, what
making
was
sure
that
we qualify.
rating?
Is there an equivalent of that here?
So it goes in several places. One of them is OSHA. The OSHA rules now apply to us, and that's an issue with what we've got. So there's that. The other thing, the ISO is not something somebody says you have to do. It's just, do you want to be able to get insurance and you want to get it for a reasonable price?
Right.
And
So that's
nobody's
pretty-
going to say that. The state does so, and NFPA gives standards that are up to us to decide to follow to a large extent. I mean, as authority having jurisdiction, I can say we're going to follow this and we're not going to follow that, and that's what we.
It sounds like you have a little more flexibility.
Completely.
The police seem more prescriptive that certain things like.
Right.
Report, I don't know.
I mean, I don't mean to be flip about this, but it's kind of literally true that we don't have to have fire protection in the state. It's not a requirement the way other things are, and it's not true. We're even other parts of the country are a little different than we are in terms of that.
I think a budget though is what should be our kind of focus here. It's my opinion.
So,
Well, and
So just a quick, I think this exercise will help. I'm sorry.
Yeah. we should review our.
Can I just make three comments before you jump in, Ryan?
Sure.
First, just kind of in defense of the truck being, the tanker being outside. If memory serves me correctly, we purchased a new truck to replace that truck. And then David came and said, I'd really like to not trade it in and keep it in. It's fine if it's outside in the winter. We just want it for fires outside, most likely. So can we just put it out there, and when it's truly done, we'll just get rid of it. I understand now that, we need it. But it's not like we didn't plan.
No. No, the only one we did that with is when they built the building, they knew they were going to do a ladder truck. They said, when we build the ladder truck, we get the bays. They got the ladder truck without the bays. That one was the one that wasn't done that way.
Right. So I just don't want people to think
right.
that the fire department wasn't planning this whole thing properly when it comes to that tanker.
No.
It's
Yeah.
supposed to be gone, but it's still serving us well. But to do that, it has to sit outside. The other thing is, I just think, my take on what we've seen right now is, if it's let's just say it's still $1,000 a square foot. It's all about that square footage. And if there's anything we can do, if there's anything we can not put in there without being, short-sighted about the future, I think we should really, really consider that. And then look at shared services. the one, and I've been talking myself in and out of it. The one that popped up is we just talked about a fitness center at the police station.
Yes.
Right.
So now we're talking about a fitness center at the fire department. But let me just finish and then, and so is there like a shared fitness center that we built? And my initial thought was, well, no, you still have to build all the lockers and everything and the the showers and everything. So now we're just doubling that, but maybe it's a wider fitness center in town. I don't know. It's, the classroom, it just, are there things that, we told Chief Amendola, hey, you can't, just build whatever you want. You need to look at other spaces. I think we need to say that same thing to Brian. What can be shared?
I was gonna say the trailers, we just put a trailer in that's hooked up now, or no, it's not hooked up, but it,
No, but there's concrete down.
Concrete.
Close.
all right.
The DPW,
The
you mean?
DPW
Yeah.
for sleeping quarters,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
but as the chief was saying, it doesn't necessarily build the camaraderie that he's trying to build to attract a fire force in the future. And so those are things to think about, but I think we as a board need to think about, managing that expectation, given what he's said, and into a budget. And,
Yeah.
how much are we prepared to, spend that we think is politically achievable in town, that voters are gonna pay for? And that's what Brian is saying. I don't wanna have these guys come out and have 25 million or $30 million and we're like, well, we just wasted a bunch of money.
Yeah, because it costs you money to get to that. Yes.
Right.
So I can do it unless,
100,000.
The other thing that I
Less than
think
one.
shared is gonna go the other direction is if you have a room that's 2/3 the size over there, maybe almost the size, it's gonna go the other direction. That will start getting used because town hall doesn't have the space it needs for meetings and things.
so I can do this real quick. I think it's,
Yes,
sorry.
This is important. It's-
$10 million borrow at 5% over 30 years, which is a reasonable expectation in today's market. With level principal starts at 833 a year borrowed, dropping over 30 years to 350,000. So if you
You mean the payments are?
payments annually,
Yes,
so
annual.
if you
That's
put
takedown and interest. right?
Yes.
everything all in
Principal and interest.
with a lot of variables in the borrowing. So the tax impact of that would be $440 on the average tax bill,
Per year,
declining over time.
but starting off at
Which is a lot of money.
40.
Yes, combined with the police station that was just done. So
Wait, that includes the police station?
not.
No, yeah,
That's
right. On
what's the
top of
$10
it, they
million.
add another 3.
It doesn't include or exclude anything. It's just $10 million.
Yes.
We know to
Right,
that point,
but
3
if-
million has been spoken for.
Right.
And, I think, so you're probably at all in more, like 50 or some higher number.
Right, and then we've got to think about the DPW repairs. I mean, we.
Well, all the other pieces.
You've got- well,
That's okay.
our job,
That's right.
is to
No,
think
I
about
understand.
All these things.
Well,
So what's the average, remind me again, where are we now with an average tax bill?
16.5.
16.5. So that's 2.5%, but
A little under 2.
it's 2% just by itself.
Yeah.
And that's 10 million. So it's more like 4%.
So there are financial things, levers that we can pull. So there are reserves you could use to lower the borrowing costs. There are, including this in the debt picture that we talked about, but there's going to be trade-offs with the capital plan. So
I
standalone,
mean, we just had a last meeting or 2 meetings ago, we had a roads.
yes.
Right.
We have a big overhang on that, right? And we've kind of,
Right.
hits just keep on coming, but that's okay because Scott's here and he's bringing us pots of
Yeah,
ARPA monies.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
just
so-
one, just one thing I guess that I'm struggling with a little bit is, on the one hand, we come up with a number that's what we think is the financial, and we would like to see something within that range financially versus going the other way, which is you do, okay, what are the absolute minimums that we have to have for these various elements, fire and safety program, housing, and you build up from the bottom with the notion that we want this to be as inexpensive as we can make it. but do it so that we're meeting these needs. And I don't have the expertise, right, to know what are those absolute minimums. And I don't know that, I'm a little worried that you're saying the architects that we have selected aren't really following our direction. So I'm not sure how you think about that, but that would be my worry about us setting a figure. Then, I mean, this person that's designing it, why not just design something that is at that figure rather than coming in maybe with something that's lower that still meets the need?
I personally think it should be both of those
Yeah.
things, that we need to set some of the goals, and that's kind of what or then the chief is saying, let's get the essentials. But also, I think if you have that budget, if you don't have that, what happens, and I saw this in the committee meeting, and it's great. We have experts in town. Some are architects, some are focused on environmental sustainability. We have great people in lots of these fields, and everybody kind of wants a piece of it. And so if you say that, and then we go in and we say, well, what could you do? And they say, well, then if you want it all green and you don't care about the architecture, and people say, well, wait a second, those things matter, or these things. But then the costs keep going up. And so what I'm trying to do is head it off early. So we say, you know what, we're going to have to make those choices now because you're going to have to live within this budget. And so I just think that's going to be helpful in planning.
Well, I could see, maybe setting a range. But I guess the other thing is, and again, this is not my area of expertise, but couldn't you ask for designs that are at different cost levels? So we want the bare bones that does these, 5 key things that we've agreed are the priorities. And, but then give us what would the cost be if you added, the ability to do solar panels and some other, reducing carbon footprint ideas? What would the cost be if that training room was large enough to be a community meeting space? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I agree with that from a concept, but everything costs money in the RFP itself, right? So I think you're gonna have sticker shock on number 1, by the way. I don't think you're ever gonna get to numbers 2 and 3. And so I think I'm back to what I said earlier. Set the minimum specs, go get a quote, see what that looks like.
the minimums.
So pleasantly surprised, we can layer in some things like, that you mentioned, but I believe we're gonna be unpleasantly.
You're saying don't have a budget, don't
make
have
it
a.
too no. Yeah, well, see, the budget thing is problematical. I really think it's specs. What do I need? And please don't exceed those.
Yeah.
You could say our guideline is such and such, but they may come back and say, well, that's.
I think that's asking, that's gonna raise the cost of this RFP, right? Because it's asking them to do a lot of different things.
That's why we don't, yeah, I'm agreeing.
Can't we take a first stab just knowing what the average square footage cost is and, trying to figure out like how much space do we really need?
How do we figure that
And
out?
also, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
we're not thinking about this in a vacuum, right? So, we're thinking the police station is going to be 3 million. So whatever we're talking about borrowing here should also include that 3 million.
Mhm.
And when we're looking at that, if 10 million, I'd say, okay, let's do 10 million for both. But if it's $10 million for both buildings, and I'm not, it's just an example because it makes the math easier. If that's roughly 2%, 2.5%.
Yeah.
Well, we were talking about several meetings ago that our budget increase is probably going to be 3.5%. So now we're talking about a 5.5% or 5%
Yes.
Right.
increase for the town. And, I think we just need to really be thinking this through.
Well, and the disparity is, as Ryan said, it's either 500, it could be 1,000. That's 100%, change. So
Right.
how do you,
So you go,
navigate
I
that?
mean, again, let me try to amalgamate the things. I believe we should come up with a set of minimum specs and just not overcomplicate the RFP. Give the architect, this is what you are designing to, no more, no less. we could give the architect a budgetary cap and try to guide them, mentally, but if they're sharp, they are ready to, they'll just look at the specs and they'll probably be able to tell you in an hour whether your budget number is real or not real. I don't think it's gonna be complicated for them. I think they're gonna say, your budget number is way too low. Based on what you're telling me, this is what you can expect.
Yeah.
And then we gotta triangulate on those things and weigh in all those other pieces, right? I don't think we should make it too complicated for them to estimate, because their estimation will be probably 80%, 90% correct just right off the bat. And we can start there.
In the committee, and you were here and Ryan was part of it, I mean, you had multiple firms throw out some numbers. And there was a wide disparity among the architectural firms as to what.
I think one of the advantages to have some number to target is that you give an architect this project and almost all of them want to fix our current building. And the minute you do that, they're just, it gets very expensive very
So you have to
quickly.
say no, like,
And that's where the number helps them say, oh, I can't, we're not going down that road. We're going to do something like this. And that's, it might be really nice to fix the current building and make it seismically, whatever, and all that. It isn't going to do it within the budget you're kind of talking about.
See, for me, the idea of coming up with the budget numbers, I know the budget number that I would say is going to be way too low.
That was my worry.
Right, right.
So, I would need to be making that decision with a little bit more information than I have right now.
but you could take that Visio. And we could recalculate what that is in square footage. And maybe cut it back a little, toss out the antiques and, a little bit of nip and tucking and then use 500 and there's a minimum, right, to me. It
Mhm.
probably will be between 500 and 1,000. It won't
Yeah.
be as high as 1,000 and hopefully, and it won't be probably as low as 500.
It won't be one.
Yeah, but I mean, I would think, I don't know how long it takes, how good you are at Visio, you seem pretty good with it. Shouldn't take too long to.
I can tell you the square footage of what you had and whatever.
That would give
Like I
us.
say, I think
some
no matter what you do, you're going to end up with something around that size.
All right, so use that
Let's do
size
it.
times
Take that
500.
quality tries and see what it comes up with.
Yeah.
I think, like you say, I think fit and finish can make a difference. We're talking about 100% difference in pricing. I think we can look at whether we're
Something
at
modular
500 or at 1,000, et cetera. It's going to be behind the other building, but it's still, you need to have an entrance that people want to come into, et cetera. But that all seems like a reasonable idea.
All right.
What do you need, Ryan? Look forward.
So I think we're gonna have to bring this back. But we'll bring more data.
Well, and I would just encourage, doing David's suggestion, figure out what the square footage is of the annex, not the rest of the building. Assume we're not doing anything to the current building, just that annex. What is that square footage, the first and second floor, and do up at 500 a square foot? And then we'll know it'll be double at 1,000 a square foot, right? But see what that range is. And then
We are
Go
doing
from there.
something to the existing building, right? It looked
So-
like there's some stuff had been taken out to put more trucks in.
Well, no, the decontamination area was where one of our current ambulances is.
Uh-huh.
It's not really usable as a good space for that. And it was our female red zone locker space in our decontamination area was there. The other thing is if you're going to do a sprinkler system, you go ahead and extend it. Neither of those things I don't think are very high budget items.
Mhm.
I think they're going to be rounding error. But that was part of what happened is you lose some of the red zone space for vehicles in the old building because that's being used for some of these things that are needed.
I do I know we need to move on, but I just want to say the shared services comment that Nathan made. I think that is something that would be really good to look at now. And for instance, talk to the police chief about training and exercise facilities and, community space. What can you come up with where you don't necessarily, each building doesn't have to have their own separate facility for those things? I just think we got to do it because of where we are financially and and the other projects we may have.
Yeah, there are some legal aspects to doing it in a police station, but yes.
But I'm just saying, I think it'd be really important to look at that and also look at, is there a way to use the existing tents that we have, even though they're not ideal, but we have them. We paid $100,000 for those. I mean, yes, it was ARPA money, but still it was a huge chunk of money. Okay, maybe we turn those into more of a permanent. I don't, I don't have the answers. I'm just saying, I think you really should look at the shared, the shared services part of this and see.
I mean, we try to do the best
down.
we can with what we have,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Don't think I haven't thought about it, or the basement of the bog house.
That's
Right.
a little out of the way.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Thank you for the effort you put into
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
This was really, really good.
Thank you.
Will you share that, the presentation with us? Thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Sorry to make you wait. We're at the ARPA funding decisions, police station construction design request.
Good evening. I think the longer you stay in here, the better, because it is awful out there
Is
right
it?
now.
Oh,
It was snowing, now it's raining. Yeah, you
is
don't
it
want to.
blowing yet?
No, that hasn't started, so it could get worse.
It's gonna be
That's the
later.
next part. Yeah.
But Ryan had forwarded me the request, the ARPA request for the police station. Let me get the wording right. The police station renovation design project. The ARPA committee met yesterday to discuss, and before I get into just some of the numbers, because I just want to give you some a summary of where we are with the ARPA funds, which we're kind of entering the end phase of those. But as a committee, we talked about it. We didn't take a formal position for or against. I think the consensus was that this is really, up to the prioritization of the select board to decide if this is how you want to utilize remaining funds. It's certainly an appropriate use, but it's really based on, the request of $103,000, $103,250 in the context of what remains in ARPA. And if this is your priority, I think we would endorse that. But we want to make sure everyone's just clear on how much funds are left, what other requests we may be looking at, just so you can make that determination. So this simple page just shows us where we are with current available ARPA funds. And the bottom line is we have just over $114,000 remaining that's unallocated, that can be allocated. In addition, we still have the $14,000 in contingency funds that haven't been used. These funds haven't been used yet. They're still in contingency, but those ultimately will be applied to something. So between those two, there's $128,000. We've also started the project closeout process, and I'll be doing more of that in the next month to officially close projects that are completed and then claw back funds that aren't expended. And so to date, some of the projects we've closed out, we've returned $23,000, and that's included in the 114. So right now, where it stands is, the police station would essentially consume the vast majority of the remaining funds. Looking forward, short of rescoping a large project like the Grant Elevator, which, is currently funded to $140,000, and I know that's being looked at as part of a larger elevator study. My guess is we'll free up another maybe anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 as we close out projects. So I don't think there's some huge nest egg out there that's going to come back unless we decide ultimately Grant Elevator, we're going to put on a warrant and free up ARPA funds and return that. But again, that's a project that's going to have to get done either way. So
We approved it as ARPA.
it is approved as ARPA. There's a question of if that's going to be sufficient. If the 140 is not sufficient, depending on how short it is, we may have to either.
You can combo it though, right?
Yeah, you can combo. Yep.
Ryan, just a question. It was confusing to me in the packet. There was a letter from TBA that was like a $200,000 quote, and then you came back, it's like half that. Like, what did they do to make
I'll
it?
show you here on the screen. So what's already been done is program review and design updates. That's what came to you for a decision. We're at task 6 and 7 in order to get what you wanted, which was the construction document based.
Okay, so the other quote had all the other pieces in.
Yeah, so what I told you was 99,000 for task 6 and 7. You could roll bid documents and services into that, so the project's ready to go, assuming a positive town meeting vote. And then the town meeting article would include the 77,000 remaining for the rest of the design.
So you need about 100 grand to get it ready for.
Either 99 or 103 to
250.
And this is to go through everything on that list,
No.
no,
just
through item 8,
Right.
through,
Yeah.
through 8. Okay,
With the idea that you'd have that done prior to town meeting, so town
Right.
meeting, you can get a vote, and if the public supports it, you're ready to go.
yeah,
If
okay,
it fails, you wouldn't be wanting to pay for 9 and 10.
all right.
And if you don't fund with ARPA, obviously you'd have to get this funds at town meeting.
Right. Which
And-
makes it more complicated.
We have to wait, right?
Right.
Yes.
So it's a good vehicle to do this. The question is, I know there's other things out there, and just in terms of, for our committee, the only other requests that we heard yesterday, and these are the only requests we've received, just in terms of what else is out there. There's nothing on the committee has in our back pocket in terms of potential projects. I just listed what the recent requests came in on. There were small requests.
So that's it, other than the 140 may go higher?
Well, from an ARPA standpoint, we're just waiting to find out if the amount that was approved to modernize the Grant elevator is sufficient for it. If it comes in and it's like 145, we may look at that and say, oh, let's take $5 grand out of contingency. If it comes in at 200 grand or more, then we'd probably have to put it in capital projects. But then you could just put the delta on there, or you could say, I don't want to get too.
We'd have to add it to the police station and the fire station.
You're right.
What, when is it expected to get?
This month, right?
The investigation will be in February of 3 of the elevators in town, and we're trying to package them so that it's cheaper. But we should know for sure the cost and the issue in late February.
Is the goal to have the elevators as a whole on as capital items, or is that an open question? Like, do you think there'll be a capital item related to the other elevators as well for the budget?
Depends on what it costs.
Okay.
So MFC, so I don't want to be coy about that. So MFC is handling the town hall elevator, and then the library elevator would be rolled into their potential renovation project. And then the school has funding, but it might not be enough. So all 3 of them are just in limbo until we know what the costs are.
I mean, my recommendation is if this is a clear priority, this is a good use of ARPA funds. If you're also intent on funding an RFP and you think that's going to be 50 grand and you want to do that before town meeting, then we'd have to figure something out. But
RFP for,
well, I'm just listening to the previous conversation. I don't know what the timeline and what your goals are there, but if this is your clear priority, this is the last year to commit ARPA funds, and
I may recall from last meeting or 2 meetings ago that we're under some time pressure if we want to get the police station rolling. So we really would like to get this done, get the TDA
Yes.
doing. So
and I would say there's not a good option to say, well, let's hold some back because maybe there's another capital project. We don't want to start new capital projects under ARPA funds around now because of the lead time it takes to, you
Right,
don't want to be caught holding the bag if you can't fund the
project,
project.
expend everything by,
Well, you have 2 years at the end of this year, but what we've seen is those projects, suddenly the bids and the scope can change and then you're kind of
what
stuck.
are you talking about? We work at lightning pace.
Let's,
yeah,
municipal government, it's
yeah.
it's not the fault of the workers.
Is the grant one in danger of failing? Are all the elevators at risk or just?
They're all the same age. So we really got a cheap evaluation design to give us a solid answer on that. So if they come back and they say you have 2-3 years, then that'll be given to you for calculation and capital planning.
Okay.
Designers almost never say that, but we're gonna make them be honest.
I don't think grant, it's at a point where if you needed to get additional funding through town meeting to supplement the 140, I don't think they would plan on doing this work to the summer anyway.
Because we
they
did have.
didn't plan on doing it until the
I
summer?
don't think, I don't want to speak for Jim, but it wasn't my impression that,
Unless it, yeah.
So just doing quick napkin math, if we got the number in February and it was approved, it would still take 2 months to procure it. So you wouldn't start it until May at the earliest. And then that would be assuming that the construction can begin.
Unless it fails, you do it in the summer. Didn't we, a couple of years ago, we
Yeah.
had an elevator fail?
Yeah, let's not talk about that. We're trying to avoid that again.
But that one also,
But it proves
Coming
that
to
those
us for
age numbers are kind of
$7.
You
real.
don't want to,
Fail, right?
you don't want to push the needle past empty, as you know, it's.
What do we have to do, Madam Chair?
So you would, if you want to, obviously, if you want to approve, you would have to
I
have a
would-
motion and just.
we need a motion to approve the expenditure for $103,250.
Guess I'd like to just say something first.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think, so I do, the answer of what is the priority, to me, both the fire department and the police department really need to be a very high priority for the town. If I were starting right from the beginning, I'd probably lean towards the fire department going first, but we've already gotten so far along in the police department that we're just throwing money away. We've already done 2 studies. We're doing a 3rd study now. We just need to get it.
Yes.
And, any more delay is just going to cost us more money. And so I think we should do this in the hopes of being able to get something for town meeting, in the hopes of being able to get permit ready and get going this summer. I think, whatever we can do to make this go fast, I think is really, really important. The unfortunate thing is then we're going to, we really need to figure out, okay, well, now we don't have the free money anymore. How are we going to support the same thing for the fire department?
Yep.
But I'm going to, I would support that as strongly. But clearly Scott isn't going to be giving us that money.
It depends. I don't know what an RFP costs. Like, do you know,
Pull the elevator into something.
you know what the RFP for the fire department would cost roughly?
Roughly 30 to 100,000.
Well, so that depends then on the grant elevator and whatever other money.
Yeah, if it's 100, if it was 30, I bet we could do that,
Mhm.
with the remaining ARPA
Right.
funds. If it's 100, it's a different.
So I would say don't give away the rest of the money until we know a little bit more.
And I would say our plan is to come back in February, once we've had a chance to kind of not audit, but go through all the projects and give you a much clearer sense of what's coming back.
Yeah.
And so, by this time next month, we can give you a much clearer idea of what other funds we might get back that aren't expended.
So it was 30,000 for TBA to do a almost done study of the police department using old design. The investigation of the DPW is 60, and that's for a feasibility study. So it's closer to 60 than 30.
100, 30.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So do you want the
So-
motion?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
I move that the select board approve approve 103,000, how much was it?
250.
103,250 for the police station. What was the right word?
Renovation.
Renovation
project.
and design project?
Yep.
Okay.
Renovation
Be-
design, yeah.
To be paid for using ARPA funds.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, we don't have to do roll call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was unanimous.
Great. Thank you very much. And we will, again, we'll be back in February with talking about remaining funds and our role as a committee, because I think we're at the point where we're winding down in terms of seeking new requests. I'll pass that along to the administrator, town administrator as well.
Sir?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. 8:15, police renovation project, building committee charge and members, project timeline and design update. And we have some things on our desk. And we did get also some
Is this my?
memos from John Lavery.
You want to start with the charge?
Yeah, let's start with the charge.
I'm sorry. Yeah, did we get a handout of a latest one? Yeah, this one, right? This is
So
the most.
there was one in the
current.
packet. We sent you some feedback. And that's both in the packet now and on your desk.
Same one.
It's the same, yeah.
Okay.
So to explain the changes, besides the grammatical and just wording changes. I looked back at the video just to make sure I was following exactly what the board said. I had some concerns when I was doing the draft about getting enough people for this. There just hasn't been a huge push through the holidays for sure. But you did say that you wanted 5 community members plus a select board member and an MFC member, and then 2 non-voting staff. So we added that language that the staff is not voting and that the number is 5 residents and 2 board or committee members for a 7-member board with voting power, and that they were to assist in the finalizing of the conceptual design, not to oversee it or approve it.
I like this. I would just propose one change, and it says it, this is in the first paragraph. It says it early in the paragraph, but then the last sentence says no changes to the projects, da, da, da. It's kind of summarizing it. And so what I would suggest is that it says no changes to the project's design scope shall cause the project to exceed a projected 3 million in total costs, comma, materially change the design approved by the Board of Selectmen, nor delay the project past.
Materially.
Change the approved design documents. It does say it, you know, it above, it says examples of management include offering modest recommendations for finalizing design plans. So it's already in there. It's just in that summary sentence, just repeat it again.
And do we have an approved timeline?
The
Are we,
the conceptual design, the timeline is bracketed by town meeting, and
okay. And then after that, it's open
it's based
to
on
Okay, have.
what, yeah,
getting.
okay.
There you can have that.
I just, we don't really have an approved timeline that's pinned down, right, other than the Maytown meeting target.
Should that be in there?
That's
Is
what
that
I'm
a
wondering,
goal?
whether you just,
Well, and instead of saying past that select board's approved timeline, past,
I mean, the goal is to get it
it's get it to, in
To-
spring town meeting.
right.
Well, no, there's a lot of timeline beyond Springtown meeting, right? This committee goes all the way through the building of the construction, right? So that timeline would be
Ah.
approved by us once we get all the
Yeah.
design and everything. There's not a whole lot
Yes.
that they're gonna be doing between now and some, but the bulk of this work happens once we've signed the
Well,
contract.
it says that the final documents will be presented to residents at the 2024 annual town meeting for a funding vote. And if town
Yeah.
residents approve the project, the committee will then oversee the procurement and implementation. So I still think that we don't want it delayed past annual, you know, the first portion.
well,
Yeah,
Can I want to say something, but I don't want to open a can of worms, so
Oh.
maybe I shouldn't say it.
good luck
to
with that.
decide how
Go
important
ahead,
it is.
just open it.
Well, I actually, and I think Debbie Bentley actually raised this at a prior meeting as an architect and thinking about the number and size of a group and how to implement
Mhm.
this. And I'm a big supporter of having a community input and these boards to really, come up with policies, shape those types of things. But once you get into more implementation, I think it's a lot more efficient, because if there's very little wiggle room as far as what they're going to be doing, having, a core group of, 3 people implementing something makes a lot more sense than having 9 people trying to do this, especially when they don't have a charge to do anything, to change anything. So I don't know, but I'm kind of rethinking what I had, thought last time. So that's my can of worms.
Yeah, and you opened it all
I
right.
did.
Yeah,
I did.
okay. Well, and since we don't have people coming out of the woodwork, this is another argument towards paring down the number.
Having
but-
input, and I've seen this, and we learned this at the town meeting, that, the building committee, people want, people on that building committee. The town wants that. They want experts.
Well,
and
here it
stuff.
is. Where are the
So
people?
we're kind of, well, I don't know, there are people online right now that, may have an interest in this particular building, as a matter of fact. But I mean, that's a thing that I think we have to decide.
Yeah. The other
What's
thing is,
best.
I have to say, and I don't know if we, John Lavery pointed out that in the charter of the MFC, 2 MFC members are supposed to be on building committees. And so the question is, do we need to change the MFC charter or put 2 MFC members on this committee?
It's a can of worms. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to decide, but it's.
Well, I would just say on this particular one, I think the salient points are, A, this committee is not being asked to make any significant changes, right? They're being asked to make sure that the conceptual design is produced by Maytown meeting. And there may be some small things, but right, they're not going to be making any changes. And given that, and the comment about sort of workability, I think that's the funny thing about this. My memory was, and I know you went back and listened to the recording, so clearly I was wrong, or maybe it got said 5 got said at one point, but then, we came up with 9 later. I don't know, but I think 1 MFC and 1 select board. If we want to put a select board person on, maybe we don't need to, but I think 3 residents is ample for this particular project. It might be for the fire station because it's much more ground up. You might want more, right? There may be more community input. There may be more, right? But and to your point, Kate, we've had 2 people express interest, and yes, it's been the holidays, and we could do more publicizing, but we're trying to get this committee going, right? So
Yeah,
we
I
can
get
get
the
something done by
Yes,
May. So
Voted on.
but I'm comfortable then with getting this committee set and get to work with 3 residents, with 3 community people. Is my view.
Plus someone else, you said
Yeah, I think MFC makes sense to have an MFC member, and I think we
But is-
could say for the select board, it's our choice whether or
isn't that
not we
part of
want
the
to.
community. I mean, could you just say the MFC member is also a member of the community? Or are you talking about someone independent of a?
Yeah, I'm saying an MFC member plus 3 community members that are not affiliated with one of the boards in town that, has a role in the building. In our
You're suggesting
buildings.
we drop it down to 7, but we're not addressing the MSC charter, that there would be 2 people.
Correct.
Any comments?
I'd be happy to open it to comments if anybody online wants to chime in.
And I suppose sorry, I just had this thought though, based on what Nathan just said, was, if we felt it was important to follow the MFC charter, we could then, because we could say as a select board, we don't think we need to have a select board member on it, and therefore take 2 people off of MFC plus 3 community members, and there's your 5.
Need a select board member.
On the other hand, if we don't get a 3rd member, I'd be happy to, to fill in. If maybe one of us would be happy to fill in so that we get the 5 so we can get going.
Okay.
Yeah, may I ask Bill Risso a question?
Yeah, well,
Hey, Bill, on the school committee, was there a select board member on the school building committee? If you're really there.
People put it on and.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Town administrator was there and the superintendent was there. A select board member would come occasionally, but wasn't, a full-time member, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
He
thanks.
was,
I mean, I would prefer a resident member. If we, and so maybe if we cut this down to a number, and then at least we can get up and started, because if you're already missing 1 member, then you can't get quorums, and needs to all be, open meeting law, so we might need to engineer that a little bit. So,
Whatever you think.
so,
Well, we could, our understanding could be we're going to shoot for getting 3 residents. We got to get 1 more. And that if we don't get 1 more, then we could, a select board member could go on it.
so we're back to, first of
Five.
all, we
talking
have went from 7 to 9 and now we're at 5.
We're at 5?
Well, it's 5 voting members plus 2 non-voting members.
Yeah. 5, well, I think I would like to say voting members then. Make that voting,
5 voting members and 2 non-voting?
yes,
Yeah,
as follows.
So that's going to be 2 MFC and 3 residents.
MFC,
if we can't
3
find a third
residents.
resident to come forward, soon, we could have a select board member take that spot.
As a resident.
Yeah, I mean, we're residents.
Doesn't say select board
but-
members can't be a member.
Yeah. But it doesn't have to be a select board member.
Right.
Are we in agreement with that? Do you have,
So we almost cut it in half.
well, it makes it a lot more efficient and since, they're not supposed to be doing a whole lot besides just making sure that TBA does their job. It might be better.
I suggest.
Yeah, I know you did.
I mean,
So you're okay with this?
yeah.
All right.
Just remember though, just remember though, this committee is going to have to do the outreach and community input, right?
Yes,
In advance of the Maytown meeting, the TBA is not going to be doing that work, right? So this committee will have some
we
important
already
stuff
have,
to do.
we already have some dates.
Yeah.
Set for that.
Right, so I completely agree conceptually with shrinking it, and I think that it makes sense for more efficiency and everything. But I also don't want to downplay the significance of this. This
Right.
committee is going to make sure, they're going to have to be on top of it and make sure that it remains on target and remains on
Yes.
budget throughout the construction period. So it's not like we're not asking them to do a lot. We are asking them to do a lot.
We
I
are.
think 5 makes sense.
Agree. Okay, so 5 voting members. And so we just have to massage that. At two of whom are from MFC and 3 residents. Okay. And town administrator and the chief of police are
Non-voting,
non-voting.
But they're not part of the 5, right?
No,
correct.
they're,
So you want to say 5 voting members?
that's what I said, 5 voting members.
Right.
2 from the Municipal
MFC.
Facilities Committee
And 3 from,
designated by the MFC,
and 3 from.
3 residents appointed by the select board.
Yeah.
And 2 non-voting staff members.
I suggest we just take that exactly it is, but reorder it so that the
Yes,
voting members are all together. So it's
yeah, got it.
2 MFC, 3 residents, and then the non-voting.
Yes,
Yeah.
Do it as you know how we've seen our charges come back to us, right? Where it's right.
I'd like,
Bullet point thing, yeah.
Yeah.
with that edit and my previous edit, I'd like to move that we approve this charter as amended tonight.
okay.
Second,
Any further discussion? Oh,
Yeah, so is that gonna, I mean, not that we have to satisfy Lavery, but he's expressing several specific issues like, will you get enough MFC members and stuff?
we just did.
All right,
We just addressed those issues.
okay.
Yep.
Got it, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Did somebody second?
I did.
Okay.
Yes,
Aye.
Aye.
any opposed? So that's unanimous. Any confusion? Are we all set? Excellent.
Did it.
Who's tasked making that move? You?
Yes,
Great.
And I just encourage all of us to think about whether we have any ideas of a community member that we could talk to about considering putting their name in the
yeah,
hopper.
2 of them already actually have been nudged by one of our members. So that's how we got them. So if anybody else has any nudging they can do. Plus, I've been asked by Wayne for nudging for his.
I've
Okay.
reached out to some people on I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
But I'm trying to, I reached out to people with the charge of getting people who did not attend town meeting and said,
Yes.
why don't you get involved? And this is a great opportunity to do that.
Excellent, excellent. So, great. So my nudging has been done. So check that off my list.
And the
Nudging is
letters,
never done. That's the nature of nudging.
Sorry.
and then a little announcement is in the mosquito this week, right? That we're still looking. And then
Yes.
you're going to do a letter that'll go
Wayne and I
next
have
week
done a letter
for
this. I
For
think that's
encouraging.
this week for, as well, for the.
study.
Town
But
meeting.
then you're going to do an additional one next week for the letter to the editor you talked to me
I
about.
can, yeah, I
Yeah.
can do another one. Let's see how we go,
Yeah,
because we really only need one more member if we have the two MFCs.
right.
We only need one per portion. But also, I want to remind people that we did this whole information session before the last town meeting. We tried to notify the town that this was going to be coming up for spring, that they should stay tuned if they want to have input. Now's the time. We're trying to keep it open. Come and join us. Come on the committee. You know, this is the time to be able to stick your oar in, because later it's too late.
Yeah, I'd also just like to comment, just, for the citizens on this committee, we may have two. I don't want people to think, oh, then there's only one, so I'm not going to apply.
Oh, yeah.
We'd
please.
love to have a
Right.
lot of people
Yes.
apply for this and be able to select from those people.
Well, we can also change the charter. We
right?
have done this
Yeah.
before as well. We've also changed the charter to include more
Well,
people.
let's not go down that path. We
Well-
just did the charter. So I think it's a good thing to have competition for
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
no, it is.
yes,
just
absolutely.
in the mosquito or anything like that, just because we need one more, doesn't mean we don't want
Well-
more than one more person interested.
We need one more in a lot of other different committees as well. So if you're not chosen for this committee, we can certainly ask you if you would be interested in, and there's going to be one for the fire department coming up, and, there's going to be lots of work and opportunities for everybody.
Right on time.
Excellent. No, because, we have the 8:45. Yeah, you're right. Only an hour late. Police and fire, chief evaluation process.
I just had one quick note for the last, we did tentatively schedule a public information session for the police department renovation. Next week is Martin Luther King Day. That's the date we selected, which was an accident. So I also think, given that you'll hear later in the meeting, that town meeting has been pushed, that the first week in February would probably be a better date, so we can properly advertise it and get people there. So we're going to try to really push and advertise now that this is set.
What date are you thinking?
One of the days in the first week of February. Just haven't looked at my calendar yet. I'd like to be there.
And this is a public meeting to invite people to comment on this is on the police station, you said?
So Justin will
Okay.
be here from TBA. Where
Okay.
he's going to walk through the
Got it.
conceptual plan on Zoom as well, so that maximum
Mhm.
participation, and people can just ask questions, and we'll do our best to answer anything that we know at the time. And hopefully there's a committee appointed then too, and they can be there as well. So it should be a nice chance for the public to really be introduced to the final stage of the project.
Great.
Okay. Police and fire chief evaluation process. We have talked about this a couple of times, and it's time for us to settle the matter. And how much participation we want to have in it. The more I have been thinking about it, the less I feel that we have enough information to be effective in helping on an evaluation, and that this really, that we evaluate the town administrator and he evaluates everybody else. But this is certainly up for discussion. We hired somebody that we wanted to
Yeah.
run.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Professional
I
staff.
get it, I get it. But I mean, there are 4 senior leadership positions in town for the daytime government. TA, superintendent, and the 2 chiefs. Now, the superintendent's in his own track
Right.
with his own committee, so let's move him off to the side. And then, so the question, you said, Ryan, that no towns, all towns do what Kate's just advocated, right?
I wouldn't say no town. We couldn't find an example
Of a town where.
of a public evaluation of a chief.
Okay. I'm basically okay with it. I think we need to streamline. The chief is a strong chief. And so if
Fire chief is.
the fire chief, I'm sorry, thank you. And I love Brian. I think he's great. But the fact is, if we ever have a disagreement, we have very little to go by. The only question is whether keeping an eye on that process. It's like finding out about it when it's too late is not great because we don't have many options, right? And the reason for in my opinion, the reason for our involvement in the process, and I'm not hard on it, I'm just proposing, the only real reason is not to cross-check what Ryan does and, get granular about the mechanics of what they're doing. It's only to keep an eye, like an oversight, and it's not endemic to the current chiefs. It's just, if something starts to go south, it's still our issue. And the problem with not having any oversight is we might not learn about it till it's a real problem, and then you're kind of parked.
I don't think our being involved in the evaluation removes us from having oversight. We still, we
Yeah.
are delegating that oversight to our chief administrator, whom we do
Yeah.
evaluate. And it would be, if he sees that there's a problem, it's up to him to let us know that. And then, of course, if he doesn't, that would show up in his evaluation.
I think you also have the liaison.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so not that the liaison has to,
Yeah.
review the chief,
Yeah.
but the liaison's job should be to bring that information back to the committee. And if there's a problem, to alert it, and then the board can talk with Ryan and say, geez, is there a problem? And we can, deal with it that way.
Okay.
So just a question about this. So if we delegate this to the town administrator, then there's a formal evaluation done by the town administrator with each of the chiefs, roughly following the way we did the evaluation with the town administrator. I mean, something similar to that. I know they're both on contracts, but and then that is something that you would then document, but then it would remain private and not shared with even the chair of the select board. Is that right? Or
So it can be shared with the entire board. What you can't do is collaborate on it. So you have access to any evaluation in town that you'd like to read. You
and
just can't
okay,
go up and talk about it. Otherwise,
Okay.
it becomes a public document.
right. Okay. So it would be, because I think that would
We
be
could read it.
helpful to us to and
Delivered.
after, yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And the other thing I want to
Also individually meet with the chief on your own and discuss the evaluation with the chief
Okay.
to gain insight. What you can't do is do it in a group. You can, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. But then it becomes a public process.
right.
And that's the only thing I'm advocating, is that employees generally don't like to be evaluated in public.
Right.
I can attest. And that would hurt recruitment and morale and that
Right.
type of thing.
I do think the goal setting part that at least is in our current, approach to the evaluating staff, the documents that we were using for Ryan, that has a goal setting piece to it. I think there'd be some value in a public discussion with each of the chiefs after the review happens, about what their goals are for the coming year. And that, A, I think that'd be an important thing for the public to hear, and B, I think it's an important thing for the select board to understand. And if we have any input we want to offer, we have an opportunity to do that before those goals are, agreed to, and are the basis for, because that's going to be part of the basis for, reviewing when contract renewal time comes, right? We'll be looking at that information, those goals, and how well did they meet them, and et cetera.
I agree with you, Barney. Just a quick question. I think their contracts say the select board. It doesn't say select board or designees. Are we gonna have a problem there?
I can report back if you do, but you can delegate it.
Pretty sure we could delegate it.
Sounds like they will want it too. Delegated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If they don't, then I'll tell you and they can sit there and be evaluated. It's fine.
I guess I just wondered, I always just think of things that could go wrong. I mean, do we need some kind of an agreement with them or something that they agree that we're gonna do this so that if in the future there's any kind of an issue, they can't say, hey, I
Right.
didn't do the evaluations in the way that's in my contract.
Yeah.
So I believe in two-way evaluation. So I would talk about the process in the same way you did with me, with anyone that I'm evaluating, not just the chiefs. They would complete a self-review and that would become the basis of my evaluation. And then I would add input from anyone that I thought was necessary. And then we would together finalize the document. If there was any disagreement, then we would bring it to the select board.
Okay.
So I wouldn't unilaterally publish it or finish it without agreement that the evaluation was fair.
Good.
And as with all tasks that we ask our administrator to do, if he felt he needed some help with that, or wanted to confer with the liaison, for instance, he could do that, but we're not specifying any of that. We're just delegating
Yep.
this to our TA.
All good.
Okay,
Sounds good.
all right.
We need a motion or anything or no? We're just
So,
You do need a motion to delegate the authority.
okay,
Well, I move that the select board delegate the authority for the evaluations of the fire chief and the police chief to the town administrator.
Second.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Catching up. Amendment to the collective bargaining agreement with the Carlisle Police Unit, Local 201. That is also on their table.
So this is new to the public, but not new to the board or the Carlisle Police Unit Local 201. So this discussions had been had in executive session, and this is the summary for the approval tonight. I can tell you that this document has been sent to the police union and I have their written agreement with it as well. So this is a done deal, assuming that the select board agrees with the language. So the summary here states that some changes to the contract. So what happened was there was clarifications needed during the payment cycles identified by the finance team, and we talked to the union about it. So we didn't necessarily open the contract. We were trying to clarify language, and then that resulted in a conversation that clarified a few items in the contract. So those included that weekend detail rates would be paid at 1.5 times the police officer or sergeant's rate, the base rate, that the stipends, which traditionally have been rolled into the base salary, so these are special duty stipends and longevity stipends, would continue to do so despite a mistaken change in the language. However, they would not be done that way for any employee that's hired after June 30th, 2025. So on that date, all stipends and longevity would be paid to the employee, not rolled into a base rate, but as a annual or biannual payment. So those are two changes, one to the special duty stipends, which is in the contract, a public contract, which is available on the website, and the longevity payments. And then two more clarifications. The clothing and uniform allowance would be increased from 500 to 1,000. And we added language that this can be used and is currently used for police uniforms, equipment, tactical clothing and equipment, and other job related items that has to be approved by your chief of police. So sometimes officers need law books and other things, and we believe that that is part of their uniform and equipment allowance. And lastly, this is another clarification that came from something that happens every once in a while, which happens in contracts. But the police officers get reimbursement for education if they're pursuing higher education. It is a $2,500 annual first come, first serve payment. And the union just asked that we clarify that because some of the language said that it could only be used for a certain degree, et cetera. So this is just for higher education. In that, in the event that more than one person applies, that seniority rules. So if you apply on day one and you're the only person, you get it. If two people apply on day one, then the senior officer would get it. And the union wanted this language, so.
So we only give one?
Well, if it's only for $400, they still have, $2,100 left over. And the second person could have a bite at the apple, but if they apply for the whole thing, they get the whole thing.
But I mean, if all the officers want education, I'm not understanding it.
So this exists. This is no change. It just, we didn't know how to pay it because it said 2,500 in the aggregate. So we agreed that that means that for the year, there's $2,500 and the first person to claim
The
reimbursement.
entire force
Yes.
be reimbursed. Okay.
It's not a big problem now because all of our officers have degrees.
Okay.
So this is what has changed. So this section 2 is just about this. What does it say now? Because you had said that there was clarification around some of the language as to what degrees they could get.
I can read it to you. Sorry, it just takes us, it's not a searchable document.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Same, like 40-mile-an-hour gusts.
So currently the language says reimbursement under this provision shall not exceed $2,500 in the aggregate for all employees. So we had a question of whether or not that was annual or for the length of the contract. The initial reimbursement shall be made to those individuals seeking an associate's degree. In the event the reimbursement does not exceed $2,500, the remaining funds shall be dispersed to any other eligible candidates under the scheme outlined above. We didn't think the associate's degree was relevant.
Especially now with both.
So that's been taken out.
And it's just. for
Any degree,
education. Yeah.
any
No money change, just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're seeking
Any-
education. then you
type of
apply.
higher education degree.
So,
Current contract that this MOA changes is through June 30th, 2025.
Yes, we're halfway through.
do I have a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the town and Carlisle Police Union, Local 201, and to authorize the town administrator to sign on the town's behalf?
Sure.
So move.
So moved.
Wait. Like
So moved.
teeth around here. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion, questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was unanimous. Okay. Municipal flag policy discussion.
Wasn't that long ago, but I'll summarize. We had a request for a flag of local interest to be flown in the town. And the request specifically said, since you do not have any policy against flying this, we'd like to know what your policy is. So the select board at your last meeting passed a moratorium on flying flags of local interest while you discussed your policy. So that settled that. All that can be flown right now are official flags, which which has its own definition. So I included in this packet for you, per your request, several policies were sent to you, but there are three here in particular. One is a very open local flags of interest process where the select board hears a request to fly a flag and then decides it unilaterally. There's what I'm calling Goldilocks or medium one where some are allowed, but there's a lot of restrictions on it. And then there's an example of a policy where no local flags of interest are allowed. So of the 351 municipalities, there's almost no communities that have the same policy in this area, but all have received the same request. So they're all discussing it right now.
Same request from the same party, like they're
Correct.
blanketing the state?
Mhm.
And what do you think the objective of that party is? Clarity, or they want confusion? What do you think they want?
They want to make a political statement.
That,
I don't think that matters. Like,
Or setting
Actually,
policy in general.
just curious. I mean, a political statement that we're obstructing such flags to fly, or we're too liberal about allowing flags to fly?
So this is my opinion,
That's what I'm asking, your opinion.
is that they would like to send a message, and their message, good or bad. And since there are no policies against it, they think it should be allowed.
I
So
see.
it's both a message and a First Amendment challenge.
Okay.
I attended the MMA flag policy webinar. Did anybody else?
Yeah.
Travis did too. And what I took away from that was that if we do a policy, you want to only say what can be flown and not what cannot be flown, because
Right.
if you don't cover what can, one of the things that can't be flown, then you're,
So only these can be flown.
only these can be flown.
Okay.
So I think the first question is, do we feel the need for anything other than official, the officially defined official flags? That's the federal, the, what,
State and
state
local.
and, well, then there's the, and military. So there's the MIA and the,
they're federally recognized.
okay, all right. Well,
Right.
do we feel the need, pressing need to fly?
Do more
anything
than
other
that. Uh-huh.
Just ask a point of a question. In the package, the municipal flag policy, maybe this is, which is on page 34. That is what is in place currently.
That's our current,
That's our current policy.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that we're talking about is possibly expanding that, because this really only covers the American flag. Is that right? And municipal flag, I guess, Carlisle's municipal flag and state.
Well, it's kind of weird, right? It tells you how you can fly the American flag
doesn't tell us,
and the purpose that all the municipal flags are flown, but it doesn't actually define any of those things.
right?
So doesn't look like a very good policy.
No.
I agree.
Our policy is not a good policy.
So there's lots of good policies that they came up with, and I agree with you. And I have one question on some of the policies, Ryan. I think it's maybe ours.
I think it's the Rochester one.
It says that like you can only fly during daylight hours unless properly lit and not in inclement weather, but you have to fly it like for certain holidays. So do we have somebody that comes in and raises it and in the holiday and lowers it? Yeah.
I get his name, so that's what the last name.
The guy out
Yeah,
that
who
lives over
across
there.
the
Yeah.
street. Christopher,
Yeah.
That's the town common one. The school handles the school, police and fire, same.
But they all do it.
Al handles ours. Yeah.
So if it's a holiday and they do it. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Ratcliffe. Mr. Ratcliffe.
The Rochester one has a section, eligible flags and order of precedence. And it's only the United States, Commonwealth of Mass, the town, and official flags of the US military. Period.
We don't have a town flag, right?
It's the most
No.
restrictive.
That's the most restrictive.
Wait, the first one you're saying?
No,
The one from
Rochester.
Rochester.
Oh, it's not the flag of local interest, example. The one you call a more discerning policy. That's I don't know where'd that
And
come
it
from.
specifically excludes everything else.
Yeah, and
We're not in the business of flying people's flags, is what it's.
well, it says, yeah, it says the town's flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the
That's pretty
public.
clear, right?
Which one are you looking at?
Still the Rochester on the second page.
Ah, okay.
The only flags permitted on town-owned flagpoles are those set forth in two
Got it.
point two, which are the ones I just read. And all other flags are prohibited. So the beauty of that one is it's really cut and dry and
Right, that's it.
clear,
And then you say no.
you know.
Right.
Now, we, on the other hand, have in the past issued a proclamation
Right.
and flown for like 15 minutes.
Yep.
The
Yeah.
flag of the Indian,
Right. Yep.
Indian. On the other hand, that's not a political statement in certain respects because that's a recognized.
You could add that,
Flag.
you could add that, but yeah.
And
Okay,
I,
we talked about it before.
Where do you draw the line?
Well, that's-
What country do you stop at?
Not even country, could be like,
If it's a nationally recognized flag, US nationally recognized flag, or which I think would include Massachusetts,
Mhm.
then that's it.
right, are you looking at flags like North Korea?
Yeah, well, and I was
Palestine?
thinking yeah, most recently Palestine or Israel. I mean,
Yeah, I think we're
we
gonna
have
get in
a lot
trouble
of
if we get too cute.
but
We
we
should probably just keep it cut and dry and then, sorry about the,
we had,
we had this discussion and I was reminded of it with Gretchen's excellent minutes. That I asked the question about the Indians and whether, but you said they brought their own flagpole.
no, they brought their own flag.
Oh, their own flag, yes, okay. But if they brought their own flagpole and we agreed that we can go in the common and
No,
wouldn't it be okay?
I don't think we'd want to say, yeah, you can do that because then anybody.
Other,
could do
right,
that.
then anyway.
Well, if they're attending it,
No, in attendance, it's kind of like the political,
you can go out and I don't have a problem if someone wants to bring a pole. This is my personal.
Yeah.
Want to bring a pole and put a flag
it's
out.
like
and
the,
there's-
it's like when you have a campaign sign and you have to stand
Sure,
by it.
sure.
Yeah.
If you're standing there and you're doing a ceremony, I mean,
Right, so do we need to say that in policy or not? Just be
no,
silent,
because
but,
there's two different kinds. There's government
right.
flags, and that's what we're dealing with.
Right,
right
so
now.
I'm just trying to offer, when they come around next year, we'd like to offer them some workaround, let's say. I mean, some other thing that's acceptable. I don't want to say
That
workaround,
does
some
open
other.
to the next.
Yeah, well, then the next guy says, I want to also do, but he has to stand there. He
Right,
gets 15
right.
minutes,
But that's our next topic, is the rotary.
Okay.
I mean, like how we deal with
that stuff.
that stuff.
that,
Okay, I'm okay. I'm okay with Rochester. I mean,
That's
basically.
I guess I am too.
Uh,
Honestly.
Yeah, in
Dry.
In principle, I am too. I'm just wondering the on 2.2, in the Rochester one, where it outlines the only flags that may be flown. So does that cover what we wanted to cover in terms of the US military and POW MIA flags? Because I saw in one of the other examples, what did they list as a flag that was a federally recognized flag? Anyway, I just,
Well, that's,
well, yeah, it was in that,
that's-
it's way up there in the, where is it? And I could just be,
Well, they have flags.
You could have a town flag, but I
an
don't know.
Andover one, I
that.
think.
The Andover one gives you the wiggle room of recognized governments and ceremonial flags.
Where
Yeah.
was it? I can't find it. Okay. Oh, National Prisoner of War flag, that's where it is.
Isn't that?
So is that the same thing as the Rochester?
POW MIA, yeah.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
I like Rochester's.
I'm fine with that.
I like Rochester's as well.
Yeah.
It's like,
But who decides like the number of flags? Oh, I forgot. I don't know. Is it in the Rochester? Like
in what order?
It
they're
just
flown?
says,
no, the order is
it just says all town owned.
You know, is the TA responsible for that?
That's that, yeah, maybe.
TA, so
Yeah.
you get to decide if there's 4 flags or 1 flag.
Or no Navy.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Well, I kind of
If you ask my son, it would be no Air Force, so
Right,
there you go.
right.
I mean, they're saying it's 4 or less.
4 or less, yeah.
In our case, we don't have a town flag.
Right, so it's 3.
We actually do.
We
More,
do.
more to follow. I've been doing research on this.
Yep.
So we should leave it in case people want to fly the Carlisle flag.
And then this look, just in terms of the flag being flown at half-staff, so this looks like it's, if the select board decides that, or if time is of the essence, that the town administrator can order the flags to be lowered to half-staff, right?
Yeah.
So this is if you are a fan of flags like me, the governor is actually the only one who can order the flag, and we get notifications when that's done. So I would tie it to that.
So
Okay.
actually, we have we could hybridize it, right? Because that's the one area where our policy is actually okay, right? It's prescriptive about the half-staff part.
This-
One of municipal employees or something else.
Well, it gives the conditions, right? It gives 6 conditions.
Of
It's more, it's more detailed. The Carlisle.
Half-
Our current,
that we could leave our
existing-
half-staff protocol in place.
Right, correct. That's what I'm saying.
Does that sound right? Ryan? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So to answer Ryan's questions, he had kind of a list there of decision points. Official flag poles, Ryan, you already have eliminated
Yes.
those. Are those,
Those are good.
do we need to vote on that or anything, or those are the official ones? And the half-staff policy, it sounds like,
sounds like we like our current staff policy because it includes more than just the federally and state.
right, it gives
It
discretion
gives
to
us
the.
and us some more
us to the
discretion
select
for local people, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
We answered 2 and we answered 3.
and the official flags are the ones that in the Rochester. And whether we want to allow flags of local interest, and the answer is no. We don't.
Well, I also like actually Rochester answers half the question Rochester's great on defining the flags, what we can and cannot do. That's great. But they don't say anything about the inclement weather and
No, we can,
so all of that stuff of ours is good, right?
yeah, we can keep whatever's good in ours.
Yeah.
And in fact, actually, what we have is good. We just don't have.
enough. We don't have the definition.
We don't have those definitions. That's
So,
all.
right. So, all right. So we're good. All right, good.
We
Okay.
almost answered.
Did
the
you
question.
get all that?
I will bring you a draft for you to.
Council draft
think he's
something?
got the-
Okay.
The idea now. Excellent. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, we're early.
Yeah, we are, but that's all right. We can make that up, I'm sure, with some other dribble.
Take us 15 minutes. to
Okay,
scrape.
rotary sign policy discussion, which is related. Oh, so I
Rotary.
have in fact, I had a note to myself that I thought it looked like 2 policies were conflated. One, a policy for signs at the Rotary and a policy for signs at all other town-owned properties. And therefore, the word "not" didn't belong in the preamble. So this policy shall replace the policy. This policy shall not apply to signs placed in the Rotary or other town property by the town of Carlisle. So that makes no sense.
No, I read that and I didn't understand it
So
either.
I think that word "not"
So what we're trying to do is determine private signs on any town-owned property, including the Rotary.
Right.
So not placed by the town, placed by individuals.
That's correct.
Yep. Okay, that's
So wait a second, though. I'm sorry. I asked this question originally
Yes.
and I was told, no, the word should be not because it is the end of that sentence is the town of Carlisle placing the sign. The town of
It's not-
Carlisle doesn't have
Please
to.
no. Oh, by the town, sorry.
That-
You, okay,
This is
now,
not- This is not a policy.
aha,
for Us, it's a policy
for other people, right.
who want to place signs. on
Got it.
town
That's right.
property.
You're right. You
Ah,
are right. You are right.
okay,
I fell into that same trap the
Yeah.
first time I
Ah.
read this.
Okay,
thank you. for
got it. So,
Clarification.
yeah,
Yes, it is. So
But it
maybe
is-
we need to fix
But
that.
if you,
Yeah, I got it. So the policy will be placed, okay.
and can I just ask for my clarification here? So this markup, the red is somebody and the blue is you, David?
I think they're both me, is what
Ah.
I recall. It went through a couple rounds. I
I
think,
see.
I think
Okay.
we brought it, Ryan asked for some help. I did some wordsmithing. We brought it months ago. We had a discussion based on the discussion, I think I added I think the red was the initial one.
Okay, okay, just was trying to clarify who did what.
Sorry,
That's fine.
The green,
You have
Yeah.
green in there?
so one is Ryan and one is David, and I'd say they're about the same number of each. If you open up the comment section, if you change your view, you can see who did what comment.
Okay, view, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway,
You have to do view all markup.
okay, I'm looking.
Okay, I do have a question about 3 and I guess what would be, or maybe 3. The paragraph in 3, the first paragraph and then the second one, which I guess that's all going to be combined into one. So it starts off, individuals wishing to post a private sign in the Rotary must request approval of the select board or the town administrator. And then it describes the process. Now, are we talking about like sandwich boards that the community chorus wants to put up announcing their event?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just ask because I've been doing that for a long time. And the process we followed has been you either call or go into the office and speak to the executive assistant to the executive board. And she has a calendar and she pulls it up and looks to see if anybody else is down for the week you're interested in. And if they're not, she puts you down. And if you want 2 weeks, she gives you 2 weeks unless somebody else is in the way. And we've had more than one event out there at the same time. So I just want us to think about that and whether we do want to put in, this is a much more, what's the right word? Prescriptive way of getting approval for this, more paperwork and it limits it to 1 week with a possible renewal. I'm just wondering what the thinking is behind making it so much more prescribed and more, and the town administrator playing a bigger role.
So right now, you have delegated this to me. So there is an online form that if someone calls, we just direct them to it, or we fill it out for them. We're not mean about it. We'll do it for you. And I place that request and usually a picture of the sign in my town administrator report notifying you that we approved it. So you know that it happened. But this does happen the way it's described here.
Well, okay, up until Jen left, though, it wasn't happening that way.
Since
Okay.
you left.
Okay, because I had no awareness of that. So for instance, we just put the community chorus sandwich board up on the Rotary because we got an approval of it prior. But so anyway, I'm not trying to make it difficult, but I guess I am.
Do that.
Yeah. So you want this to be so there's a form you fill out online and it gets submitted to you and then you approve it and that's done, but you just inform the select board that you've approved it. Okay. And this is saying only one sign, only one event at a time, one organization at a time on the
Like the
Rotary.
banners, this-
No, because I'm sorry,
Where does it say only one at a time?
it says, where did it say this?
it doesn't say one at a time.
I don't think it restricts any numbers. I mean, it's up to the discretion of the TA.
I thought I saw somewhere in here
You
that it
see the
said you could
time.
only you could only have one event up at the Rotary at a time. But let me just ask you, what was your thinking? Is it, and you could have more than one event at the same time?
Yes. So
Okay.
what I believe the direction to me is that it can't be overly cluttered. So if we had
Yeah, okay,
too many, then I would start to limit it. But
Okay.
1 or 2, or if it's good community event, we're just trying to advertise it. It's not a big deal.
okay, so up to your discretion. Okay,
For example, if town meeting was coming, but there was also an event, we would have 2 out there at once.
Unless it's the same night and then we bollocks the private event.
Correct.
I think you all received, John Lavery as a public, I made a comment and I just wanted to share some of that here just
Also-
because I thought it was input.
It's also in front of you.
Also here.
Oh, it is there. Okay.
oh, John's comment? Okay.
So he talked about all signs within the Rotary shall be erected and removed by DPW staff as directed by the town administrator's office. Is that, I mean, I don't think we don't do that now, and I don't know why we would,
So who
Need to-
removes it?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on
the
who's-
organization removes it.
Usually it's Al.
Oh,
It's not usually the
If
organization?
it's us, I'm sorry, it's Al. If it's the organization, we do that. And if they don't, we notify them they need to move it. That's why the online form is helpful because we have a contact.
So the organization puts it out and then the organization is responsible for picking it up. Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, so John was suggesting that for safety.
right.
I guess it does give some administrative control, but I think people can still get to and from the Rotary at certain terms of the day safely enough. I mean, you wouldn't want to do this at 4 p.m, but
Well, no, but I think if the sign was up and it was obstructing traffic because you couldn't see around it or something like that, I still think you, as the TA, have enough. You know, you tell the person they have to move it, or you could have DPW physically just move it to
Yeah.
ensure safety. I don't
Okay.
think that has to be in
in
there.
the policy.
I think
okay.
that's just kind of safety, and we can, the other one, no political signs, campaign or otherwise shall be allowed within the Rotary, whether held, attended to, or placed. He's thinking that's a safety issue, and also plus limiting the number of people holding signs, maybe another legal issue.
This is August one or is more recent?
This was recent.
Today.
This was today.
Yeah.
It's on the desk in front of
Personally,
you.
I think,
No,
you
it's
know,
not on my.
if
desk.
you're I mean, before our elections in town, we have people standing out in front. As long as you're holding your sign, I think you can say whatever you want if you're standing there.
I do think though we need to be careful about, there's the Rotary. Like, are they standing on the edge of the Rotary, or are we allowing somebody to stand with a sign in the middle of a Rotary, which would be a big safety issue?
You mean by the statue, on the ground by the
Yeah.
statue?
Find it in my email.
That's where all the signs are, right? That's where people post the signs, and they're, can only be so big, so they shouldn't be in the way. But we shouldn't allow anybody to stand in the middle of the Rotary, whether they're holding their sign.
I don't follow you, Nathan. So
Yeah, they
if I have people that are, helping me with my campaign and they want to stand out in the Rotary and hold up a sign with my name on it, you're saying the physical Rotary, the ground, not the pavement, but the ground that's got the statue on it. You're saying you would
can't-
not want to have a person standing there holding the
Not in the
sign.
middle of a Rotary. They can be along the side where it's safer.
Oh.
We don't want people crossing and standing in the middle of the Rotary.
We,
I mean, have we had that before?
yeah,
Standing in the
oh,
middle of
yeah,
the Rotary?
Mhm.
oh, yeah.
It's, and as Concord does as well, in that big, in the Rotary.
Yeah,
in
that's a
front of-
much bigger Rotary.
It is,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying that that's probably the model that people are following.
We have a person who sits out there, right?
Yeah,
Currently.
Bonnie, yeah.
I'm not, I would want to consult a lawyer, but I do not think that we can restrict political speech.
Yeah, I think that's the issue.
But we can say you can't leave a sign on public property.
I think his
Yeah.
argument is safety, though, you're saying. right?
Yeah, you're talking about safety.
You're concerned about safety? I don't think it's an issue because it's been
I don't
done
either.
for years.
And we haven't had a,
Theoretically, people are going 15 miles an hour in that Rotary.
right?
Well, I don't know. I do think it is an issue of free speech, however.
Mm-hmm.
Now, but the thing that
I would
John brought up,
suggest They can't be in the.
was
Rotary.
whether it's a
It's just
parade.
can't be in the center of the. It's not a very big area. But I'll drop it.
no, it's okay. I mean, we need to discuss this.
Well, you could say, so the Rotary is the best place for signage, like the Savoyards or whatever, right? That's where everybody goes.
Yes. And the
We
town
could
meeting.
say it can only be in the outer ring, or we could be more specific, where do they place them now? They don't place it next to the statue, they place them in.
No, we're talking about somebody holding a sign as opposed to somebody putting up a sandwich board.
Isn't that?
Two
a
different things.
That's a different policy, isn't it? That's not this.
Number 4 covers it.
Okay.
Does not, does not restrict holding or attending a
Non-included
private sign
restriction.
campaign,
So you're saying,
town property.
Nathan, that we should, in number 4, we should be more restrictive about people standing in the rotary.
I
We're
would
just, we're broad, we just say town property.
No, I don't want to restrict anybody from holding or attending a sign on town property other than for safety reasons, right in the center of the town, of the Rotary.
So, well, that's what I'm saying. We could
Yeah.
add a word, a sentence.
Yeah.
In number 4, that just carves that out. Right?
Yeah, my,
Gonna be properly.
my concern is that we have, that has been going on, regularly. Certainly the person that currently sits out there has been doing this for some time, and then sometimes there's a second person sitting there. As well as other individuals have held signs for all kinds of different events on the space you're talking about, Nathan. So I
Okay, nobody's been
I'm
told yet,
just-
I guess.
wonder, how that, I don't want to have it be perceived that we're trying to, discourage free speech there.
And what about his comment about having DPW staff do it with the signs up?
No, we've discussed that. We decided that that wasn't necessary.
Okay.
That Ryan will take care of it. Al takes care of it for our signs, and they have a contact person that numbers so they can make.
The only thing is if you want people to weigh in, if you.
Could we say, could we say something like, we're not restricting it, but we encourage people not to, for safety reasons, to be along the outside of the Rotary and not standing in the middle, so if something does happen, we can point to the fact that was unsafe.
I don't know that it's any more safe or unsafe there than being on the sidewalk or on the side.
That's fine.
Yeah, I just don't. Did anybody online wanted to weigh in? I think John,
Debbie's got her hand up.
oh, thanks, Debbie.
Yeah, there's been some talk on the chat about the safety issues. There's a couple of things so when we do the Poppy project, we have little lawn signs that says what the Poppy project's about. Will we have to apply for permission to put those signs up on the town common as well as the poppies? And sometimes we put poppies in the Rotary. And is there any objection to that? I mean, it's kind of quite, I don't know if it's political or not. Don't go there. But I just, this is one of these sort of gray areas that I worry about, because we kind of do the poppy project ad hoc. If we have poppies left over, we put them in the Rotary. And some years we don't. That's all.
Well, I know the first year you got permission. And I don't think poppies are the same.
I know, but it's just like, this is where it gets to this
Right.
gray
Not trying to
area.
read a poppy as you're going by. I mean,
But it is political speech. You're
Mhm.
putting
Yes.
something, it doesn't
Right.
matter. I mean, it could be.
Sending a message,
It's
yeah.
sending
yes,
a-
it is a message. You're right.
Yeah.
I guess I think more in terms of these signs that are hard to read and people are slowing down trying to read them, or they're not large, that's more of a traffic safety rather than safety for the person holding the sign,
Right, so I think, Debbie, you have been asking for permission to put the poppies
Yes.
on the green, right? So you would just
Yeah.
add and the sign when you're requesting permission.
That's what I think needs to be
Yeah.
really clear, when you do that. And also I would add in, any every year the design changes. So sometimes we have a few left over and then we do something in the Rotary, and I'll add that into the permissioning. So
Approved.
thanks.
Anybody else? I guess not. Okay, thanks, Debbie. So do we want to, okay, what do we want to do with this policy? I think we need to cut bait.
I think I'm fine with this, the way it's written. It's a little hard with the crossouts, but I think I think what we've got is okay with me. I mean, I guess the only thing I'd say is that it would be good if, I guess maybe that's what Debbie's kind of raising, that the town administrator has some discretion about,
Yeah.
you know, not necessarily making exceptions to this, but using his own judgment about something that doesn't come in exactly the way the policy describes it having to come in.
Yeah.
But maybe maybe that's just understood.
The thing is, at this point, we'll now have, you know, a record of the permissions and it'll be a lot more streamlined and clean cut.
Right.
And I think it's much more important for us to, you know, be sure that the language is clear and that people understand.
I just, one quick thing for the town administrator, do you want to put language in here or their designee? So that it's not, I mean, some of this, especially if it's somebody that is routinely putting the same sign in the Rotary, do you want to just,
No,
you
it's
want to
just
be
the office.
responsible for,
It's-
okay,
It's the office.
There's going to be a request that is controversial at some point, so it should be the town administrator.
I was thinking that the poppies are, you know, seem so fine, but if you wanted flags for Lebanon or some flags for, I mean, all of a sudden there's 1,000 flags out
That's how
there.
they'll get around the flagpole thing.
Yeah, you
F
know.
you and your flagpole. I'm gonna put them all over the.
I'm gonna put 1,000 flags out
right.
there of
Just
something
like the
that-
white flags in the mall for each of the COVID deaths.
yeah.
Well,
they're
or it could
just-
be even more nefarious, but.
Well,
you know,
I'm just, yeah.
This does
Another
confuse
example.
people, so I just want to be clear for
Yeah.
anyone that's mosquito for sure, but this is only town land. You're
Right.
allowed to fly whatever you want or post whatever you want on your own land.
Of course.
Yes,
Always.
yes.
This isn't a sign banner of,
No,
it's just what can be displayed on town property.
okay.
Okay.
I think it's good, and then if something comes up, we have to revisit.
Always
we'll-
change it.
we'll Always change.
Yeah,
it.
This works.
that's the nice thing about policies. It's flexible and yet hopefully it's a good guideline for people. So may I have a motion, please?
I move that the select board approve the policy regarding placement of private signs on town property as amended in the document before us tonight.
So we're adopting a policy.
Sorry, adopt the policy.
Excellent.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That was unanimous. Excellent. Town administrator report, finally.
All right. So some stuff you'll see in town hall and residents will see in town hall. The lactation room will be completed in the next couple weeks. This will be heavy drawn curtains and locks to make sure we provide that federally required space. And good reason, as you'll see why later in the report. The land use file project, we inspired the land use departments to reconnect on filing, and we believe we have a path forward that will reduce some of the cabinets in filing, but not impede operational efficiency for our staff. So this might result in the relooking at the cubicle and other project upstairs to finish it off for those who have visited our second floor. If we can't get this done, then you heard the ARPA discussion tonight. We will release those funds back to ARPA so they can be used for another purpose. We won't hold them much longer if this can't be figured out. The Healed and Parlin room technology updates could happen as soon as Monday. These would be touch view screens, similar in size to that, very interactive. You can draw on them, you can do all kinds of things on them, and you can also host a meeting on them. So folks would log into Zoom, the account would be run by that room, and then a meeting can happen. This would be especially useful for some of our land use departments and other departments that use those for both meetings and for public meetings. So much easier to log into and just a direct feed so that people can see the entire room rather than just a computer screen. I'm going to share my screen for the public. I have permission to do this.
Baby pictures.
Yay.
Yay.
So Aubrey and Tim Thomas are proud to announce their son Russell was born on January 4th, 2024 at 1:44 p.m. Russell, who this is Aubrey's joke, is a basketball, weighed in at 9 pounds, 5 ounces and measured 21 inches in length. Big baby.
Big.
We're going to miss Aubrey for the next couple months, but we're thrilled to see her expand her family and get that quality time with her new son. So this will be 3 months of parental leave currently for Aubrey as she transitions with her new family, and she said she's already ready to come back. She didn't quite say that, but she said it's a little harder than she thought. And then Sarah started this week, which is tough to follow Russell. So unfortunately, Sarah is our new land use and sustainability coordinator. Very smart, very attuned to the issues of Carlisle, and wants to learn. So she's already introduced herself to the sustainability committee, is working closely with Julie, and her primary responsibility is to serve the building department. So many different functions, but a good example of a flexible and we hope a very useful employee. And then we are interviewing candidates for police officer, DPW heavy equipment operator, DPW driver, labor, and municipal assistant for the MFC, CPC, and CHC. That position went out today, and we should see some folks. And I definitely miss Aubrey handling all of this for me. So I'll be doing this for her while she's gone. Some budget updates. This was included in notes of the finance committee. So in draft 1, there was a $5,000 request from the cultural council that did not make it into draft 1. So they're looking for additional funding to support their music program. This is something that I missed. Support their music program and Old Home Day. Additionally, the Center Park committee or group Friends of Center Park are requesting $10,000 in capital for a storage shed. And you saw they've also put in an ARPA request for that as well. So they would like to put a storage shed in the park and are looking for different funding sources. The liaison report was already in, but the CPC is up and running and looking at several projects, or will be from what I hear. And then just seeking, and this does need a vote and it wasn't in the packet, but we are seeking the board's final agreement that the annual town meeting will be held on May 13th. So it was difficult to schedule this with the school to find a free day, but we did agree on that day. We're sharing it with someone in the school, the drama club. They will vacate, allow us to set up, and then resume their activities the next day. So this, I think, is a nice compromise between the extending the time for the police department renovation and then still getting it done before June.
Let's pause here. I'd like to take a vote on this, please.
And that's a Monday.
Monday.
Yeah.
And what
You
do we
want a
have?
motion?
Yes, I need a motion to set.
I move that the select board set the date for the annual town meeting to be Monday, May 13th, 2024.
Second.
My only question is, do we have a backup date in case we run over?
Several, but it wouldn't be in succession, so probably be the next week.
Huh. Okay. Are there any other questions, comments? This in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, got a date. Got
When
it.
is Concord? They're at the end of April.
April
29th.
29th.
And 30th and 31st. Quick summary of work for our intern who's already gone. Jake is attached to this report. He completed his internship. He gathered a ton of data that's going to pay dividends in the future. We've already passed a lot of that work off to Sarah. Some of it was sustainability focused. Also, I do know that the board would like to look at some bylaws and stuff that were recommended in the government study report, and he did a lot of the legwork on that. So you might not see it tomorrow, but you're going to see Jake's work for the next couple months. We also got him some professional development. The Triple MA was kind enough to offer him that free, so it didn't cost the town anything, but it did give him some exposure to municipal government, and we hope he comes on board. We also requested, because of the success of Jake, executive intern from UMass Boston, and we were able to, that intern will be starting in a couple weeks. They're an economics major, and they'll be looking at comparing Carlisle's licensing and other local receipts to other towns to see if there's any opportunity to adjust either up or down based on what we find. And I'm sure we'll find some other uses for an economist. Some procurement updates. It was referenced earlier, but the trailer sprinkler system at the DPW, this will allow the DPW to sleep during storms, is finally moving. We have a good partner, Infrastructure Limited. They began pouring the concrete pad this week. Thanks to the Conservation Commission for working with them to make sure that happens speedily. And storms aren't helping, but we should complete this project before the end of the winter.
Poor guys.
Be good for next winter.
After much discussion, the procurement for the wastewater treatment makeup air unit is finalized. We did look at many different options, sustainable options, and just unfortunately, the most cost-effective is the one that was discussed. So to make any other change would be a significant investment in changing of the building, which could happen in the future, but not in time for this project. It would have doubled the $80,000 cost. The dog park, so this is a no-go. The dog park came in well over bid. The Recreation Commission and Department is looking at reducing the size of the project to see if it would still qualify for the grant. And we might rebid it based off of those new specs, but it has to be redesigned now. So
The numbers, like what it came in?
How much over?
How much over, or what are we, magnitude are we talking?
So just rough off the top of my head, I believe it was about 350 we had for a grant, and it came in over 500,000.
$500,000 for a dog.
Seems over designed.
You think?
What?
Let's get that guy to design the fire. Don't get that guy to design.
Right.
David was very good. David Fisher. Corey Auditorium lighting. So this one is also over. One of the problems is the equipment that we need is bid at what we thought. It's the electrical construction that bid much higher, so to the tune of $70,000 to $80,000. We do have a $20,000 earmark that we believe survived the government's cuts or the governor's cuts this week. That would reduce that by 20,000, but it's still over. So we are now leaning on we're going to award, the schools are going to award the equipment to the Corey Auditorium, which is well under bid. And then they are going to provide electrical design and drawings to us as part of that package that we will rebid in hopes of bringing that cost down. But I do believe there will be an ask at some point for additional money for this project. I don't think it'll be 70,000, but it's going to be.
We're not actually receiving that new equipment, right? If we order it?
We would be procuring it, yeah. But it would be on hold until the electrical construction is done.
So
It would be a very short period of time. I mean, we just don't want it to become obsolete before it's even.
Oh yeah, no, it would be done before the end of the year.
but you're saying this might be something that has to be considered in the operating budget for 20
Or a capital request at town meeting.
capital. Yeah.
And just so the public's aware, and so is the board and the finance committee, we've tried every type of procurement there is to get this cost down, and the construction is just not allowing us to do it, to the point where I'm including this in a package that we're sending through the small town administrators to procurement updates that are needed in order to stop hamstringing small towns from getting projects done. So we do believe it is the procurement laws that are increasing this cost in addition to inflation, but that doesn't help us in the short term, but we are adding it to the
Because it
portfolio.
restricts the vendors you can go to, the suppliers you can go to, or.
So it's a longer, if the theatrical lighting company could do, and they are qualified to subbid it, we could, but that would put the total project over the $150,000 threshold, which requires a DCAM certification, which only large electrical companies have. So they know that we need that. So we didn't split it, but we did say that one is goods and services and the other is construction, using council and other guides. We called the state as well. And then the electrical construction still came in really high despite needing the DCAM certification. We could probably do it in-house with the Steves, but that would be all they did for a month. And it's not really possible. So we're trying to find a way to make it all work, and we will. It's just going to take some time.
We might have a source, because we're doing one at a theater.
Mhm.
Same exact project.
Well, it'd be really nice if they had bid.
Well, we'll see. I'll see if they did, and it's possible I could ask some people to talk to.
All right. We now know the name of the Hart Desiato Bridge on Route 225. Julie and named after a couple, I believe, service members. Julie and I are trying to advocate for these necessary bridge repairs. It's important to note this bridge doesn't need immediate repair, but the state doesn't consider it a priority. And we can't get it on the local tip without assuming the costs of the design and the construction. So we are advocating through our legislators that the state prioritizes this project at some point so we can get on a 10-year, 15-year plan. So I'm not sure if any of you will still be select board members in 10, 15 years, but the boards that replace you and I will work on fixing this, and we're doing the legwork now.
So I saw in the detail that it has a, I don't know, 30 ton, there's some weight restriction, right? Like, does like Bedford know that? Do they not drive those big trucks over that bridge? Do semis not drive? I guess semis are probably okay, but I mean, who knows that weight limit and how is it
Enforced.
enforced? Yeah.
I think we have special permission to go over it with our trucks at 5 miles an hour.
Down the
His
But,
question,
you talking about going the other direction?
Yeah.
I don't know, just
big
other
trucks.
people with heavy trucks. There's no sign that says weight
Yeah, you're
limit
right,
on it or
doesn't.
anything.
So it takes a pretty big truck to, like, it has to be our tankers.
I know, but you'd think there'd be some
Signage.
sign, like when there's a low bridge, there's a sign, right? They
Right.
don't want you jamming up that bridge, so why would they want you banging on that bridge? I don't know. It's just, you're in the weeds of it. Maybe that's a question that should be asked. It wouldn't take much for the state to put a sign up there to
Yeah,
warn people that they have to turn off, or I don't know.
There's no place to turn off.
Well, you'd have to do it back in Bedford and,
No, or you'd have
or
to,
our-
yeah, you'd have to go back up.
that's a big truck,
I
yeah.
would think if you're driving a 30-ton truck, you're already looking at what bridges can fluctuate.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right.
We're just telling you what we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It does not take up a ton of our time, but we are making sure the future is okay. And then,
Take up 30 tons at a time.
no, no, it does not. Good one. The ESC has put together a Route to Sustainability Day subcommittee. They will fall under OML because they are a public body. This is an approved function of their work plan in the ESC. So just notifying you that they're creating this subcommittee, and we do not believe the select board needs to appoint it. We ran it by the town clerk as well. So. And then the ESC is looking for a resolution of support for their opposition to the proposed Hanscom Airfield expansion. So this isn't a topic for discussion tonight because it wasn't on the agenda. But when the resolution and draft is ready, I will send it to you, and they're asking for you to support considering it and an agenda at an upcoming public meeting. So I'm notifying the select board if you would like to take this up. They have asked you to.
So I guess the question to the board is, do you want this as an agenda item?
So we can't debate it tonight, but I do have a sort of exculpatory question. It seeks to restrict hangars. It doesn't really address flights. Flights would be the thing you would want to restrict, I think, right?
You're saying the
Well,
what
I
is it?
see- I haven't researched it other than reading what's in the packet, but
Yeah.
the, what I understand is that the airport wants to expand by adding hangars. I don't see the number of flights being addressed as a restriction.
are we taking it up tonight?
No.
No, but I'm just, before we decide if it's.
There's an
agenda-
appetite to
Yeah, all
have
right.
this on as an agenda item.
I guess so.
I think we should at least hear about it. My understanding is that a number of towns that are surrounding Hanscom, their boards are considering it or have already considered whether or not to support a resolution.
Okay, if we're gonna do that, can we have, like, I don't know, we're getting one resolution from someone. Can we have,
Somebody that wants to do somebody supporting the expansion?
Have somebody from Hanscom come and tell us what they want to do.
Yeah.
Hey, I think that if you're
Sure.
gonna
That's
have
right,
a,
that's
if
right.
you're gonna have a hearing about it, you should have a hearing about it.
Right.
Well, I was thinking more just a briefing to decide, but
Right.
if
But-
you want the briefing to include both parties,
They
that's
should
fine.
come. The people who want it should come. Do we, and another question to ask, I guess, council, I mean, do we have standing to I mean, we can say whatever we want, but what does that mean, right? I mean, do we have the standing to like make noise? Or is it just we're complaining because my neighbor's noisy, I'm making a complaint? It would be nice to know what I guess the point, and I agree with, thank you for clarifying for everybody. I don't want to discuss it now, but when we do come to it, we should have data like that. Like really, what do they want? And what leverage do we have, right?
Right.
I want the data of what they want from Hanscom.
No, we
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, no, exactly. So, all right. That's what I needed to know, because I didn't want to
Yeah.
either say yes or no to putting it on the agenda without having first a discussion from this board, whether you wanted and what you want as in the packet. So it may not be in the next agenda or two. It might take some time for us to get this information that we need. Well, organized.
Yeah, that's what I want to know though, is like, is it just two pieces of information in the package, like information from Hanscom of why they want it, and then, and then are we having people come to present, or are we not? What's the plan for it?
During their planning meeting, I think we'll,
And is this where we want to spend our time as a select?
well,
board?
that's what I'm
I mean,
asking
we've
my
got a
select
lot
board.
of- we've got
Exactly. We have,
a lot of issues to cover, and I think,
Right, but
So
a
this-
committee that we charged with being sustainable is raising its hand that they believe this to be an issue. So I think at a minimum, we deserve some level of courtesy to look into that, right? But my point, I think everybody sort of agrees, is if we're going to spend the time, we should have some info. It doesn't have, if Hanscom, we don't want an hour presentation on Hanscom. I mean, we should keep it brief, but to the point where at least we have an informed opinion. We can make an informed opinion. So we give the courtesy to the ESC because they're raising it as an issue. Other towns are also raising it. It's not like a,
Right.
we're off the charts Carlisle tree hugging issue. A lot of people are saying this isn't a great thing, but we clearly need to know more. And then, okay. So, but we keep it, to your point, it shouldn't consume our whole night.
okay, I will see what I can. I'll see what Ryan can do for us
We'll
on this. Okay,
we'll do.
thank you.
There is not a financial policy attached to it, but you will get that tomorrow for reconciliations and then fraud, waste, and abuse. Those are the next two. Again, we have 12 of these to go. The FinCom is working through them and the finance team. So just continuing to move these along. We're trying to get them done by the end of the fiscal year. And then we owe a buy recycled policy update that we send to department heads. The last policy was updated in 1999, and we still send it to department heads in order to get recycling credit. And we do, and the policy is good enough. But I know this board, so we're sending you kind of a best practices version of this for you to look at and approve if you want. And we attach that to this so that we can actually do what we say we're doing, which is try to be more sustainable with our buying and procuring. There's a lot to it, and it's a big policy change, so you should look at it. Also, we'll be bringing you a list of known warrant articles at your next meeting. So including placeholders and maybes, we're looking at 24 articles or so already, depending on how many CPA articles. So most of it is just one-off decisions on capital items and other things. And whether or not the capital plan is split up between the MFC and others it could shrink the number, but about 24.
And that's without counting any CPA requests?
I have a couple placeholders.
Do, okay.
So around there, 20 to 25. And then staff recognition. So there's one note here. I just want to start by saying the significant double what they said would come storm that happened on Sunday required over 24 hours of DPW presence. The fire department was everywhere, literally putting out fires. And then our police department and dispatch were responding all day on that Sunday. So I know I was pretty cozy at home with my family, but I was thinking about our officials who were out there keeping everybody safe and responding to things, to include downed trees and other things. And I do expect another round of that tonight with the storm. I don't know if it's going to hit Carlisle the way they're saying it's going to hit Massachusetts, but we could probably expect some power outages later and some downed trees as well. So there's more to come. The fire department did something similar on December 17th and 18th. It just wasn't time to get this in my last report to you. So they assisted residents with significant flooding during the most recent storm cycle. They responded with the police and DPW to health and structure emergencies, to include going into a resident's house and pumping water out of their basement to make sure that that resident was okay. And then Gretchen. So I have had the privilege of watching Gretchen process over 500 transfer station applications in the last week or two. Thank you, Travis, for replying. This is part of her job. She's done it before and she's really good at it. And it would be easy to just say it's part of her job and she's good at it, but she's balancing all of your requests, all of my requests, and all of her regular duties while getting up constantly and helping people. And this is one of the most visible licenses or applications we get in town, and I feel like people are getting good customer service, and she's making each person feel like they're heard and they're important while doing all the other stuff. So I just wanted to thank her for that. Jen also did a very similar effort, and so did Peggy. So this is a long line of people taking care of people for the trash. And then I have a draft agenda for you to review.
Yeah, were you missing one thing on that draft agenda?
I'm sure I am.
Dog hearing voted to continue to January 23rd at 7:30.
And just a quick input on that. There are no complaints received. So do you want to continue the continuation, or do you want to definitely have everybody in again to talk? You said you would assess at the next hearing whether or not you needed to finalize it, continue it, et cetera. So we do not have any known complaints for this issue since your last meeting about it.
I think the complainant needs to be notified. And if they don't have any further complaints, and if they wouldn't, do they want to come back? I think they need to be asked. They want to come back.
I mean, we have to have it on the agenda anyway.
Yeah,
I would say that we have it on the agenda and we let them know that if there are no additional complaints, we will continue it, I would say, for another month. And then if there are, then we will expect them to be there.
yeah. And if there's no, and if we continue for another month and there continue to not be any, then we will close it and it'll be done.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
what I would say.
I like that.
Sounds good to me.
So Ryan, this agenda has today's stuff on it.
It sure does.
Well,
Because we had so much.
January
doesn't.
23rd. No, are you
It's
looking
got
at
the-
January,
it's got the
Yeah, it's got the
celebration
flag.
committee.
Oh, yeah,
but
keep
at the
going.
next, keep
policy.
going.
Oh, well, because he didn't know that very often he has to have these things on twice. So that's why he's had,
Or 8 times.
or 8 times, yes. So we
Alright,
can take this off.
Okay.
Great, so we're gonna have a short meeting.
Let me look,
Well-
make sure that that's true.
We'll come up with
Well,
something.
it does look like items 4 through 9 are the same as what we had tonight.
Now he'll fix it.
Yeah, we'll fix
I'm
it.
sure we'll fill it.
It'll be tomorrow. We might have just, because, but
And just a small thing, but you need the
well,
COHS
Yep.
subcommittee, strategy committee. We need to approve that.
So I have the calendar and I can call it up.
oh, yeah, okay. And then on the calendar, you had us, I'll talk about the February date. For
All
some
right.
reason you had us for February 6th, and it should be February 13th or whatever.
Is that at the end of his report?
No,
Oh,
it's on the master calendar.
oh,
I'll fix it later. January 20th, yeah, he only goes to the 25th.
All right, so for the 23rd, I have the dog hearing, the MAPC regional discussion. So they'll be coming in and presenting their findings to you.
Yep.
The reviewing or finalizing the committee policy, it's just
Yeah.
some adjustments. Reviewing the warrant articles as I discussed in my TA report, the COH subcommittee, the buy recycled policy, And then you have a goal review that you wanted to do
Yeah,
For
okay,
your
so-
goals,
for yours as well.
ours
goals.
goals
All right.
for
Or,
the continuation of this fiscal year or for
yeah, the ones that we set.
just to
in June.
review what we
Yeah,
did
let's
last,
review
what we set last
Our
summer.
first quarter, how
Yeah.
we're doing,
Okay, good.
Okay, sounds good.
you know, should we put more, emphasis on this one? Has that one slipped? Whatever.
Yeah, good.
Alright.
Just to keep ourselves on our toes. And for some reason, the wrong copy of this got in, I guess, because you clearly have it. Okay, are there any other liaison reports? Community input?
Yes. It's Lana.
Oh, hi, Lana.
Hi,
Could,
I'll be
don't
quick.
forget to, introduce yourself and give us your address for the record.
Yes. Lana Zamaro, 398 Lowell Street here in Carlisle, and I'm a member of the Environmental Sustainability Committee. I just want to reinforce the comment that Barney had made actually about the select boards that have already signed on to this resolution. And I appreciate, David, your understanding of extending a courtesy to the select board, to the Environmental Sustainability Committee. We would like an opportunity to present the case. This is really not meant as a nuisance. And it is important. It is important to our town and to our state. And I hope you will give it due consideration when we present the material behind it. Those select boards that have signed on are Bedford, Concord, Littleton, and Lexington. And this resolution also has the support of our state representatives and senator. There's been a lot of press about the concerns about this expansion in Hanscom, and I hope we'll make that clear when and if we are given the opportunity to present the case to you. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.